now, happy Monday afternoon. Welcome to 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis, all here with you today. Full show coming up before we get to Royals baseball tonight. Royals at home against the Toronto Blue Jays, looking to bounce back after a gross last couple of days. Varying degrees of gross. We're going to get to that. Royals lose their series with the Orioles 2-1. We will break it all down. We'll get you ready for the start of this week's series and tonight's opener against the Blue Jays as well. Baseball heavy in the first hour of the show today. We'll get to Bobby Witt and his recent cool down specifically, and why I can understand if you are annoyed as a Royals fan to keep hearing it's bad luck, it's going to turn around. Michael Garcia, he said bad luck, but it's going to turn around. Bobby Witt Jr., some of the same. Some other players, some of the same. I get being annoyed by that. But Bobby Witt Jr. is getting unlucky, and he is going to turn it around. We'll get to that coming up a little bit later on this hour. Plus, an incredibly funny video from the Yankee game today. Was it Yankees-A's today? Yeah. And it's unbelievably funny, but also a great example of how umpires may be worse than ever this year, which I think we've said each of the last 40 years, 50 years going on that. It is as bad as ever. So we'll get to the state of umpiring in Major League Baseball later on in this opening hour as well. Got plenty of NFL draft to get to today. Matt Verderame will join us in the 3 o'clock hour. We've got Mock Draft Monday. We're going to have a bunch of these this week, but our final official Mock Draft Monday for you. We'll get you some transfer portal news in the 4 o'clock hour today. Our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Again, we will preview Royals versus Blue Jays tonight. What is wrong with you? The good, bad, and ugly. All that and much more coming up on 580 Sports Talk. You know the drill. You know how to get involved in the show, either on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. And, of course, find us on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the name of our YouTube channel. Just 20 subscribers away from 500. We'd love to get there here soon. I'm not going to be here at the end of the week, so I figure you guys are going to be able to wrap it up on Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, we're going to take care of business end of the week. We're going to come back with
yeah.
Going to be pretty easy work once
we'll be getting close to 550.
Yeah, yeah, right.
By the time you get back,
a whole subscription drive. Spencer has promised to make some handmade tote bags for our next subscribers. So yeah, we're gonna get there.
Jumping into the YouTube comments right away. Well, actually, the Twitter comments. Our new friend from Twitter. What is it? Kaufman Ghetto? Is that their handle?
I believe so, yes.
With the display name John Sherman's new ballpark. Jumps in and says, Kauffman Stadium concrete is why we lost. The 23,000 Saturday worried the team. I mean, that's just facts right there. That's hard to argue. What an incredible bit. Big fan of our guy, John Sherman's new ballpark. Let's dive right on into Royals baseball after we get you our keyword for the Choose Your Trip contest. This is the final week for the Alpha Media Choose Your Trip contest over at 580WIBW.com. Your keyword for the 2 o'clock hour is win. W-I-N. Win. So head to 580WIBW.com. Enter that keyword win between now and 3 o'clock. You only have the length of this hour. So until 3 o'clock, enter the keyword win for your chance to win a trip to anywhere you want to go in the 580 and Alpha Media Choose Your Trip contest.
Win is something the Royals only did on Friday.
Yes, they did win on Friday. That was a plus. They won big, in fact, and could have won by even more if it wasn't for the fact that the star of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is not a very good relief pitcher.
Yeah, I think Royals fans are ready to say, yo, home, smell you later to their top left-hander out of the bullpen. He is quite bad and gave up the grand slam to Adley Rutschman, turned what was starting to feel like a laugher into a tight game, and then one swing, MJ Melendez turned it back into a laugher for the final couple of frames. That was good. Friday was good. Saturday, please disregard that I spoke about that as a marquee pitching matchup. I did not have 9-7 as the final score in the Cole Reagans versus Corbin Burns matchup.
I feel like no one did.
So let's start there. Let's just start with the Saturday game. I am going to go out on a limb and say that will be among, if not the very worst game that Cole Reagans pitches all year. I mean, he did not have it. And sometimes you just don't have it.
I would almost disagree. I think he had too much of it. There are some days.
Okay.
There are some days.
Overamped?
Where I wouldn't even say that. I would just say there are some days where you feel loose and easy and relaxed upon the mound and everything you throw is a strike. you're just dotting the strike zone. Well, the problem with that is major league hitters hit strikes. And after the first inning, Baltimore's approach became, hey, we just got to put the ball in play, because if we get deep in counts, he's going to blow us away. We have to attack him early in counts, and we just have to try and make contact. And fortunately for Baltimore, everything they hit found green grass.
And that's the thing. It wasn't like, he gave up 4 home runs.
Right,
it was just
right.
contact after contact after contact.
This was the batting average on balls in play fairy making a visit to the Orioles dugout, and everything was a hit. Ground balls with eyes, little flares into the outfield, perfectly placed between infielder and outfielder. The ground ball double by, I think it was Arias, who just got down the third baseline. And then they've got a chance to get out of the inning at 3-0. And you never like to give up 3 early and put yourself in a hole like that. But you got a chance to get out of the inning at 3-0. And then you make too good a pitch. And that little cue shot spin job out behind second base that Massey, I think it was Massey playing on Saturday, couldn't quite get a handle on. And then the inning continues. And by the time of Santander's double, which is what chased Reagan's from the game, at that point, Reagan's had thrown so many pitches that inning that he's thinking, they just got to hit it at somebody or I'm not going to be long for this baseball game. Like, I have to get a quick out or my day is over with. And unfortunately, Santander's batted ball was not, like all the rest of them, directly at anybody. It was over everybody, in fact. And that was functionally the game, although the Royals did rally. And if not for some questionable base running by Kyle Isbell, might have even had a little bit more of a rally in them late. But like, there are some games where you watch a pitcher and think, man, what happened? The command is bad. They're not locating pitches. Everything is in the middle of the plate. This is a really alarming stat. No, I don't categorize Cole Reagans' effort on Saturday as that. I just categorize that as baseball happening to Cole Reagans. It sucks to watch. You feel like the game's over before you bat a second time. That blows, especially if you bought tickets to see that pitching matchup. And if you bought tickets because I told you it was worthwhile to buy tickets for that pitching matchup, do not send me an invoice. I will not be paying you back. There will be no refunds. You should have noticed the sign on the door that said no refunds. But I'm not worried about Reagan's long-term after that start. It was just
it just sucked.
Yeah, just a tough luck afternoon for him. And yeah, he's just got to be, you got to be a little finer around the corners, the edges of the strike zone. Got to get pitches down a little bit. Just the contact was not great. They weren't stinging the ball, but the contact was good enough to be those, 90-mile-an-hour line drives that float to left, or those ground balls that have eyes and sneak through. The pitches were a little too good at times from Cole Reagans, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair enough way to put it. I mean, it's not even like he was giving up massive, guys were hitting the ball 110 off the bat every time they came up against him. He did against Adley Rutschman. He gave up a single that was 106 off the bat, 105 on the double by Santander early on. I mean, other than that, there was decent contact against him. But again, it's not like people were crushing the ball. It does suck, though, because you can't make those kind of mistakes against an offense that's as good as Baltimore's, because
you really can't.
Generally speaking, teams that have that much offensive firepower will make you pay for that. The funny thing about the matchup, too, is that it's not like you even went to the park and saw, well, at least Corbin Burns looked good. Corbin Burns wasn't all that great. He was okay, but it wasn't like he looked like a Cy Young pitcher in that game either. It was sometimes games live up to the hype, and sometimes they do not. And Cole Reagan's getting pulled before he finishes the second inning, and Corbin Burns looking fairly pedestrian. I mean, it is what it is. Sometimes that's just baseball.
I think, too, every pitcher has one of those outings. It's just how bad does it get?
Yeah, I mean,
like
you can't be on 32 times.
Exactly.
Almost never. There are very few examples. I mean, you can even go back to some of the most dominant seasons in recent memory. Go back to one of DeGrom's Cy Young seasons. I'm sure there was a start in there where he was not especially good. Well. Scherzer has had moments like that. You name any pitcher, and they had off games like that. I mean, shoot, DeGrom only goes 5 innings anyway. You have one bad inning that playing for those crappy Mets teams that screws up the whole game.
Right.
So that's baseball. Baseball's really hard. I had this had to vent about this weekend on Twitter because the Cubs had a bad weekend. They got lost their series to the Marlins at home. Offense wasn't especially good. The bullpen's a problem. And I saw someone who I like, whose baseball opinions I respect, say, I'm out on any expectations I had for the Cubs this year. Brother, they are 13-9. They have played 22 games. It is April. We're not even the final days of April. We have more than a week left in the month of April. It is hard to play baseball. I would argue, I always have argued, the single most difficult, and this is more and more true as time goes on, the single most difficult individual skill in professional sports is hitting a baseball. Yeah. You have a bat that's, this? You can't see this on the radio, obviously, but I'm putting my hands together, like the width of a bat.
I forget who had the old quote that they take a round ball and a round bat until you hit it square.
Yes, and the ball...
it sounds like a Yogi Berra thing, but I don't think it's a Yogi Berra thing. I forget who said that.
The ball fits in the palm of your hand unless you have tiny little man hands, and you can, that's what you have to hit. And it's coming at you 102 miles an hour, and it's curving all over the place. And then occasionally, they'll throw an 80-mile-an-hour pitch that moves so much you can't even believe it. It looks like it's made up. And you're supposed to hit that and hit it a lot. That happens sometimes. It's baseball. It's really, really hard. And the same thing for pitchers. You missed your spot by a fraction of an inch, and that's the difference between a line out to second base and a 400-foot home run, more or less.
Yeah.
It's hard. It is April. You cannot get bogged down in those things. And that's why I think it is important, and we'll get to more of this with Bobby Witt Jr. coming up in a minute, but that's why you cannot let individual games at this part of the year wear you down, and why I'm not super worried about Cole Reagans. If you wanted to worry about anything, and I'm not saying I am, again, maybe it's the fact that the offense has been up and down recently, but it was better this weekend. It was fairly good on Saturday despite the loss. It was quite good on Friday in the win. Yesterday, it stunk. It happens sometimes.
Yeah, you tell me you're going to score 16 runs in a 3-game weekend series, and I like your chances to take at least 2 of those games, depending on how you spread them out. And as it turned out for the Royals, they didn't spread them out very well. They had 9 on Friday night and won. They had 7 on Saturday night and lost, and then they didn't get any yesterday. Kind of a puzzling offensive performance against the left-hander Cole Irvin. Sometimes those soft-tossing lefties, and he's not a soft tosser. He's not out there like Jamie Moyer or anything like that. But sometimes those more finesse-type lefties can really have you off balance, and that was the case for the Royals. Christopher, the Bard on the YouTube chat, has a limerick about the lineup to date. The season so far is a ball, but 2 through 5 can't do it all. So now 6 through 1 must join in on the fun lest they face an eventual fall. It's very well done, as it always is. But the point is that you've got 4 guys right now who are stinging the baseball. Perez, Pasquantino, Bobby Witt Jr., who, again, is in a little bit of a funk the last handful of games, and Melendez. And even Nelson Velasquez is up there with a 778 OPS and 6 extra base hits, and he's getting on base. So not much to pick at with Velasquez outside of his possibly unsustainable batting average on balls in play. It's just been nothing from anyone else. Michael Garcia's slump is now 2 weeks deep. Hunter Renfroe's not hitting. Kyle Isbell isn't hitting. Nobody else.
Fulton just shuddered.
Nobody else is producing. So it's great that the middle of the order is doing damage, but if you can navigate the middle of the order, right now the bottom of the order isn't getting it done. And your leadoff spot, Garcia, and he's right back up there tonight. Matt Quatrero has not lost faith in Michael Garcia as the leadoff man. He's back in there tonight against Toronto. You've got to get on base, set the table for your guys who are on fire. So that, I guess, is the part that is not really working for the Royals right now, is that supplemental offense. Your stars are hitting like stars, and you're even getting, star performances from guys like Melendez and Velasquez that you kind of be happy with average performances from. But everybody else kind of has to get out from underwater, because that's where the bottom portion of the lineup is right now.
Was a little bummed out by the fact that the offense just did nothing against Cole Irvin, because, he's not a bum, but he's not Corbin Burns.
He's not an ace.
He's not your top tier guys. No. Entered yesterday, these numbers are fairly jarring. Had allowed 11 earned runs in 14 2/3 innings. His whip was 1.7. That's walks and hits per inning pitched. And then he shut out the Royals in 6 2/3 and only gave up 4 hits. Not great.
Well, maybe he was due. I don't know. Yeah, that's frustrating. Like, Corbin Burns does that to you. You tip your cap. Cole Irvin does that to you. You think, what the hell, man?
Mm-hmm.
But it goes back to the broader point, and I made this point in the first week of the season, and I'll continue to make the point. So many 3-game series come down to not necessarily just the rubber game, the one, but the swing game in a series. Because a lot of times you'll play well one day, the other team will play well the other day, and there's that swing game in a 3-game series that could have gone either way. And so far, the Royals are not winning those games. In their 3-game series this year, they have lost 2 out of 3 to Minnesota with a couple of close losses. They lost 2 out of 3 to Baltimore in Baltimore with the bullpen giving up 2 of those games. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Mets, and that one may be a little bit different because they didn't really play well in that series. And now they lost 2 out of 3 to Baltimore, where the swing game is you score 7 runs against Corbin Burns with your ace on the mound and you don't win that game. Or you score 7 runs, not all off of Corbin Burns, but you score 7 runs in a game where Corbin Burns is the starting pitcher and your ace is on the bump and you don't win that game. And that is the difference over the course of 162 games. That is the fundamental difference between competitive teams and contending teams, is finding a way to win those swing games. The cliched 54 in a season, the third of games in a season that are up for grabs, because there are the 54 you're going to win no matter what, and the 54 you're going to lose no matter what, and the other 54 are the games that determine your season. And so far, the early returns for the Royals, they're not winning those games. That's what they've got to get better at. And it stands in contrast to what Cleveland has done early on, because now the Royals find themselves 3 games back of the Guardians, who have the best record in baseball at 16-6. Again, strength of schedule is important to note here. Not only have they gotten to play the White Sox once, they've played 7 games against the Oakland A's and have gone 6-1 in those games. So, yes, we can talk about Kansas City benefiting from 7 early games against the White Sox. Certainly, Cleveland has benefited from 10 games of their first 22 against 2 teams that might be the 2 worst when all's said and done in the American League. But Cleveland is a team with a bunch of guys who've been on winning teams, who've been part of contending seasons, who know what it takes to get to October, to get to August and September and still be competitive in your division. They might have a first-year manager in Stephen Vogt, but Vogt was on teams throughout his career that were competitive.
I forgot they hired Stephen Vogt.
They did. They hired Stephen Vogt.
I feel like he should still be
playing, right?
The 23rd man for the Yankees or something.
Yeah, backup catcher for the Rays. Spiritually, he never stopped being the Rays backup catcher. But
no, for real.
Even though he's
only 39.
Yeah, I think he's the youngest manager in baseball, I believe.
I would not be surprised by that.
I can't, off the top of my head, think of anyone who's any younger than he is. But that is an organization that is accustomed to winning. And they have guys on their team who've been around winning baseball. And the Royals are not quite there yet with their young guys. So that's going to be the learning process. That's how you're going to judge the progress, I think, of this team as we go forward. How many of these series wins are they able to pick off where they do win a 1-run game, where they do rally from behind, where they do get a win when their number 5 is on the mound, when it's Alec Marsh going up against somebody's ace? How many times do they start to win that baseball game? Because that's what's going to tell the difference for the Royals between just being competitive, which I think we've already seen enough to establish this team will, at the bare minimum, be competitive. But there's a difference between being competitive and being a contender, and the difference has been kind of borne itself out in their first handful of 3-game series, where they're just not winning that swing game that could give them a chance to win a series.
To your point about youngest manager, he is not, unfortunately. It's Oliver Marmol.
Ollie Marmol's younger? Really?
He's only 37. I've looked that up at the exact same time.
Well, the Cardinals are 9-13, so give it 2 weeks, and the correct answer will be Stephen Vogt.
He has now been the youngest manager in baseball 3 straight years. He was 35 when he got hired.
That is just, wow.
The Cardinals hiring a nobody is wild. And that's mean to Oliver Marmol, but in terms of baseball, he is kind of a nobody. He was an assistant.
It's not Ollie Marmol's fault that Paul Goldschmidt has a 507 OPS. And it's not Ollie Marmol's fault that the Cardinals think that Miles Michaelis and Kyle Gibson are a solid 1-2 in a major league pitching rotation in the year 2024. But guess who's going to get blamed here in about a month if it doesn't start going a whole lot better for the Redbirds?
It ain't John Mozeliak. That's for damn sure. It ain't going to be him. One final thought I had, just to build on something you said, knowing how to win is a skill. Like, that is a skill you can work on and improve on. And that is something that I think the Royals, hopefully, based on what our expectations were for this team, based on what I think it's fair to surmise were the Royals' expectations for this team this year, and I think general fan base understanding, this is a year where if you improve in the win column and you actually do improve on that, and come September, you know what it takes to play a meaningful game, August, playing a meaningful game and knowing how to win in those situations, that is going to set you up for more success in the future, continuing to build around the core that you still have, the core of Witt and Reagans and Pasquantino and maybe Melendez. Maybe that includes Nelson Velasquez. Building around that core, hopefully Michael Garcia as well. Building around that core. When that group knows how to win those games and knows how to do that consistently, that's going to help this team in all win more games. That's what they've got to get to, and that is something they need to accomplish as this year goes on. We're going to talk about the superstar shortstop Bobby Witt Jr. coming up in a moment, and why maybe it's not quite time to hit the panic button on Bobby Witt Jr. yet. Plus, umpires are as bad as ever. I know that's breaking news to all of us. That's all coming up in a baseball-heavy first hour of 580 Sports Talk. .231 on this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, and Spencer here with you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program today. Got a lot of baseball to get to here in this next half hour. We'll have plenty of NFL draft to get to coming up later on in the show. Matt Verderame will join us in the 3 o'clock hour. We've also got Mock Draft Monday coming up next hour. Wanted to get to what Bobby Witt has been up to recently. It hasn't been anything spectacular. Has not been his normal self. I think that's fair to say. In the last 6 games, Bobby Witt Jr. has gone 5 for 24 with 4 singles, 1 double. Not your typical Bobby Witt line for those wondering and who don't know how to calculate slugging percentage in your head. That's a 250 slug over the last week for Bobby Witt Jr. I know that this business, the business of sports, Major League Baseball, it is a results-based business. And you can talk about, well, the process is good and, well, he's unlucky for these reasons, all you want. In the end, you've got to actually perform. And that's in terms of team success and what the fans want as well. I understand all of those things. However, the process is there. The process has been good, and he has been getting unlucky, and it's going to turn around. And honestly, of any player on this Royals team, the one with the most leeway to have a slump is Bobby Witt Jr., and that's probably not even close in that regard. He is crushing the ball still. He is still, even with the last week not going the way he had wanted, he is still whacking the ball harder than anybody else in baseball. He is still, in fact, number 1 in all of Major League Baseball in hard hit percentage. That is the shortstop of the Kansas City Royals. Yesterday, he made an out on a ball that he hit almost 103 miles an hour off the bat that had, if you want to get into the nerd stuff here, an expected batting average based on the exit velocity, the arc of the ball, where it was headed on the field. Your expected batting average on that hit is 730. He made an out on that play. I mean, what do you do at that point? He had a ball that he batted 103 off the bat on Saturday, turned into an out. 98 miles an hour off the bat for an out on Friday. He is crushing the ball. It's just not going where you want it to go. And it's not like it's every single time up he's hitting the ball 100 miles an hour off the bat. He had a pop out of, I think it was 72 miles an hour off the bat the other day. That's going to get caught damn near every single time. So it's not perfect. And yeah, he could certainly improve. But there is also underlying information here. If you want to dive right on into it, you use the buzzwords. There's underlying analytical data here that indicates this is going to turn around, and it's probably going to turn around pretty quickly.
Yeah, nothing's changed about his approach. That's for sure. And not a lot has changed about the results he's getting in terms of the quality of contact. That's what you're looking for. The thing that really makes this frustrating, though, is not necessarily that, Bobby Witt had a tough week. But if you look at the week, the Royals had games where they scored 2 runs and won, 1 run and lost, and 0 runs and lost. Also had a game where they scored 4 runs and won. And that kind of coincides with their best hitter being in a bit of a funk. Well, when that happens, when you're not getting the expected production, when you have a week where Bobby Witt Jr. doesn't homer, not driving the ball all over the place, that's where the complementary offense needs to be there. You can't be so superstar dependent. You've got to have somebody in the bottom half of the order picking up the slack. And these are the OPSs of the guys who are in the bottom of the Royals order right now. Adam Frazier, 486 OPS. That's not great. He's walking more than he's striking out. That's good. But we are still looking for the first extra base hit of the season for the Royals' 32-year-old second baseman. Kyle Isbell, 467 OPS. I'm a big believer that Isbell is good enough defensively that he does not have to be a great hitter to be a net positive. If he just bats 9th and plays Gold Glove caliber center field defense and is just like, I don't know, 10% worse than league average, 20% worse than league average, he's probably still a player that adds value. You cannot be 65% worse than league average as an offensive player. And unfortunately, that's where Kyle Isbell is right now. Hunter Renfroe, 539 OPS, does have a couple of dingers. This is kind of who 32-year-old Hunter Renfroe might be now. Age might be catching up to him a little bit, as he proved in that home run he hit the first game of the doubleheader in Chicago. When he makes contact, the ball does tend to stay hit, but just not enough from Renfroe right now. And then, like Maikel Garcia's at a 561 OPS. We've chronicled his struggles after a really promising start to the season. Michael Massey is 2 for 7. Like, we'll see. He's back in the lineup again tonight. We'll see what kind of juice Massey can bring to the lineup. He was certainly helpful on Friday night, his first game off the injured list, which was a great sign. But we'll see. But the guy who had been playing instead of Massey was Garrett Hampson, 509 OPS. The complementary offense, not there yet, and really does need to come along. These guys don't all need to be above average hitters. If all 9 guys in your lineup are above average hitters, you're the 1927 Yankees. But they do need to be a lot closer to league average than they've been. And the Royals need to be able to count on some of those guys to step forward and produce a little bit offensively if one of your stars goes through a fallow period like Bobby Witt Jr. did this last week.
Kyle Isbell is... You asked, I think it was last week, we did the random question Tuesday bit, like what is a piece of, maybe this was a couple weeks ago now, what's the piece of media from the before times, whatever the before times is. Kyle Isbell is the Royal from the before times. He is such a Dayton Moore player. He's got a really good glove, by all accounts, like good dude, good teammate, not a good offensive player, and is just, has a bad enough bat that it really does not justify keeping him every day in the outfield. And granted, when you don't have any better options, that's what you run with. Fine. He is such a Dayton Moore player. He and Drew Waters are one and the same. And I know Waters had a little bit better, profile in terms of what he could be as an offensive player, but those are guys that to me are emblematic of a past era of Royals baseball. And the kind of guy that, like, if the Royals were better and were contending for a playoff spot and you thought, dang, we're a bat away, we're a piece away, and we could improve our outfield, you go trade for someone who could play instead of Kyle Isbell. Like, that's what you do. Probably not what you're going to do this season. I don't expect the Royals to be in a buy Jim Cramer kind of position come trade deadline, but that's the kind of piece that is still replaceable for this Royals team. And look, Garrett Hampson, I mean, it is what it is. He's your 6th infielder, essentially.
I think he's the 26th man.
Yeah. Guys like that are always going to be replaceable. You're never going to have 26 guys on a roster who you say, all right, all of these dudes are untouchable. All 14 position players locked on. We cannot get better. They can't go anywhere.
Yeah, but wouldn't that be sick?
It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
It would be, we'd be planning the parade already, probably. Even the teams that have the best rosters of position players, though, the Dodgers have replaceable dudes. Insert whoever here. The Orioles have replaceable dudes. Every team does because the rosters are big enough. The goal is, though, that those guys we can replace them. They are not so good that we cannot replace them, as opposed to we're counting down the days until we can DFA him. But that's what you want from your 25th and your 26th guys.
Yeah, I mean, you get to you talking about your 25th, 26th guys. Sometimes it's just a guy you get off for nothing. That's just a bench guy that has experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
like the Nationals traded for some bench guys that had a little bit of experience in 2019, and then they won the World Series.
You need to fill the roster somehow.
Yeah,
and you don't want to fill it maybe with a prospect who. Okay, Gavin Cross has been hitting really well down at, I think he's at AA right now.
I think so.
You're not going to say, you know what, why not? Let's bring him up. Let's get his clock started. Well, A, that doesn't make sense because you don't want to start his clock. And B, what is the point of bringing up a prospect you're trying to develop if he's not going to bat more than every couple of days? It just doesn't make sense. You need these guys to fill out the roster. You would just like them to be a little bit better than this.
Yeah, and even when we're talking about Isbell, at least one of the major wins above replacement calculations still has him as being an above average contributor above replacement level contributor, I should say. According to Baseball Reference, wins above replacement, he's over 0. He's slightly under 0 the other direction. He's minus 0.1 wins above replacement according to Fangraphs. But that just tells you that even though he is not hitting a lick, his defense elevates his value. He just needs to be acceptable offensively. Now, what it has been in the first 62 plate appearances is not that, but it's a long season.
Coming up on the other side of this break, umpires are very bad. They have always, for the most part, been very bad. We have maybe hit a new low this year. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, and Spencer here with you on 580 Sports Talk. We'll get to Mock Draft Monday coming up in the 3 o'clock hour. We'll talk some transfer portal in the 4 o'clock hour today. Shout out to Coach Brett Ballard and the Washburn Ichabods men's basketball team. They picked up a transfer this weekend. Jacob Hanna, Wichita native, had played the last 3 years at Illinois Springfield, transferring in for his last year of eligibility. He was an all-state kid his senior year down at Mays. By the way, do you know what the team name of Illinois Springfield is? UIS, as they're known. It's sick.
Something to do with a hawk?
No, much cooler than that. They're the Prairie Stars.
That is pretty cool.
The UIS Prairie Stars. Non-football school. There's a fun fact for you. But yeah, he transferred in, announced his commitment to Washburn yesterday. So looking forward to some Washburn basketball coming up next year. Obviously, we'll get to KU, K-State latest, both football and basketball. A little women's basketball portal action as well we'll get to coming up in the 4 o'clock hour today. 2 baseball notes I need to get to. Number one, I just came across this video. Spencer, you might have seen this yesterday.
I did not. So yesterday I decided to keep myself off of Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it.
We want to call it Twitter.
We want to call it Twitter.
Yes. I did not want to get myself in trouble after watching the Capitals game, so I decided to stay off Twitter.
That is very mature.
I applaud. Yeah,
well
done.
done.
Yeah,
well done.
It was not a good game.
That is very
That's
impressive.
growth is what that is.
My stance is usually
Also YouTube TV was a little behind, so
didn't want to ruin it. I get that. I usually go on and I will, after a bad loss, usually say like one thing I really shouldn't say, sort of pretend that I'm okay even though I'm not, and then go back and delete my tweets later.
I've got a 60-minute rule. After one of my teams loses an important game, I just stay off for an hour. I don't need to read the
That's smart.
Post-game reaction, drag yourself further into a negativity spiral, especially if you follow other people who are fans of your favorite team. There's just no good in that. So yeah, I can stay away from it.
So yesterday at the Nationals game, you know how they do the president race?
Yes.
It's the 4 presidents who are on Mount Rushmore, right?
I believe so, yes.
They do the president race, like at the K, they do the hot dog race and all that. Well, all of the other mascots from the greater DMV area, the greater Washington, D.C. area, college mascots, pro mascots, all of them, ran on the field and attacked the presidents. Like Duke Dog from James Madison just laid out one of them. Who was it? He ran out. I can't tell which one he took out. I mean, they all came out and assaulted them. The hog from the Commanders came out, was kicking
at
Teddy
the very end. He laid out somebody at the very end.
Yeah, he was kicking Teddy Roosevelt in the head. Commentary here of all of the other various mascots taking out presidents that, frankly, I am willing to write a think piece about. Check me out on Medium. I am willing to have political discourse about this personally, but I'm kind of here for it. Testudo was out there. The funniest part about this, George Washington University, they're now the Revolutionaries. They changed from the Colonials to the Revolutionaries or the Revs. Their mascot is still George Washington. He must have been very confused by this whole thing. Watching his presidential brethren, including, I believe, himself, get assaulted while watching it all happen and just kind of standing there. And they also covered like the whole Eastern Seaboard. The Blue Hen from Delaware was there. That's not that close as far as I'm aware.
It's not too far.
I'm here for it, frankly. I am all.
The Hoya was in there too. The Hoya dog.
Yeah, all of the local mascots beating up the presidents at the Nats game. Honestly, I'm kind of in support of it. DC mascots, welcome to the resistance. The other thing I wanted to get to, this has also gone viral today on Twitter. The Yankees played the A's this afternoon. Shout out to Monday afternoon baseball. All here for it.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
More day games. I don't know why. Was it scheduled or was this a
I don't
delayed
have
game?
Any idea.
They played this afternoon.
They played this afternoon. Yeah, they just finished up. Oakland 2, New York nothing.
Awesome. Hilarious. Very, very funny. The A's have 9 wins.
They do.
I'm very impressed. That is 3 times as many wins as the White Sox have.
They started a 4-game series today.
Daytime. Hey, I love day baseball. I'm here for it.
The Islanders might be playing.
Oh, maybe there's a playoff game tonight. That could be. Anyway, beside the point.
Or NBA playoff game.
There is an NBA playoff game tonight in New York.
So they might have moved it. Yeah.
Aaron Boone, the manager of the Yankees, got ejected, I think in the first inning, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
He was arguing with home plate umpire Hunter Wendelstedt back and forth. The Yes Network picked up all of the audio from it. You can listen to it all on Twitter. It's very impressive.
Even the announcer said you don't need to wait for the John Boy lip reading breakdown. Like it is loud and clear, profanity and all.
And after Aaron Boone had stopped talking from the Yankee dugout, a fan, just a regular Joe in a blue polo shirt who was near the dugout, yelled something at Hunter Wendelstedt, the home plate umpire, who took off his mask, turned to the Yankees, and ejected Aaron Boone.
You're gone.
You can see the opposite dugout angle. Aaron Boone does not open his mouth.
No.
Yeah, they literally had the camera on him.
He did not say a word. This fan did. Then his bench coach, did you know the Yankees bench coach was Brad Osmus?
I do now.
Which is very funny.
Yeah.
He points like, oh, that was a fan. That was a fan who did that. And they threw out Aaron Boone. The Yankees went on to score precisely 0 runs. Aaron Judge is still in a deep slump. They lost to the A's.
Soto got struck out on like 103-mile-an-hour fastball.
Yes, Mason Miller, if you don't know the name, is the hardest throwing reliever in baseball. He faced Aaron Judge 101 for strike 1, 102 for strike 2 up and in, and 101 for strike 3. Good morning, good afternoon, good night.
Yeah.
Know the name if you don't already. This dude rules.
Jed Hoyer, get on the phone. You know they will make a trade with you. Anyway, this is yet another footnote in a way too long chapter of umpires being disastrously bad this year. We were talking about this off the air. Dan, you said Hunter Wendelstedt should know better because he's done this for forever.
Not only has he done it for forever, his dad did it for forever. That's like the first family of umpiring, the Wendelstedts. Like the umpiring school, one of the biggest umpiring schools was the Wendelstedt school. Like, you have to know better than this. And this is my theory of what's happening here. We all know that broadly the failures of home plate umpires, they are more widely seen than ever before. There have been at least 3 occasions that I can recall, including Saturday night at Kauffman Stadium, where a pitch right down the middle of the plate belt high was called a ball. If you did not see, I believe it was the first pitch of the game out of the hand of Cole Reagans, and it splits the plate to Gunnar Henderson. And a bemused Ryan Lefevre on the Royals TV broadcast said, first pitch is a fastball right down the middle for ball 1. Like, and that's not the first time I've seen that. It happened to Max Fried on opening day. There have been pitches right down the middle of the plate, strikes by any definition, that have not been called strikes. So
it's game after game.
It's game after game. And I am sympathetic in the sense that the home plate umpire in baseball was never meant to be called upon to be judging 100-mile-an-hour fastballs and sliders that spin at 3,800 RPM. It is a hard job. It's never been harder, and it might be beyond the scope of human capability to get them all right, which is why we need to go to an automated strike ball system soonest. But because these failures are more widespread, umpires are getting a little bit more sensitive, I think is what's happening here.
Yes!
And Hunter Wendelstedt today had the rabbit ears so bad that he ejected a manager in the first inning of a baseball game. The first inning. And look, you couldn't clearly hear, I don't believe, at least I couldn't, what the fan sitting behind the dugout. You called him an average Joe. I don't think there are a lot of average Joes sitting front row at Yankee Stadium, even for day baseball. The guy probably runs an investment firm or something, but drove a very nice car to get there. But I don't know what he said. I couldn't quite make out what he said. There's no way it was bad enough to justify turning and ejecting the manager in the first inning of a baseball game. Particularly, you've got to have relationships with these managers, and you've got to know which ones, if you say, hey, that's enough, are not going to poke and prod and try to get themselves thrown out in the first inning of a baseball game. Have a little feel for the game.
You bring up something there talking about the relationships that came up during college basketball this year. We remember the week in which Kelvin Sampson, Bill Self, and Scott Drew all got ejected, right?
Yeah.
Like 3 of the most respected coaches in the sport. Bill Self, who had not been ejected in decades and never at KU. Scott Drew, who had never been ejected, period. Even Kelvin Sampson, who throws a tantrum from time to time. It's not like he's getting tossed left and right. And they all got thrown out in a week. And we heard that, hey, the relationship between referee and coach is getting bad. These are things that at least have had some semblance of mutual understanding for forever, that was thrown out the window for 1 week in, I think it was February or late January this year. That has gotten to a bad place. It's the same in baseball now. We are not there to watch an umpire exert power. We understand that you have to have some sort of control over the game. That, more than anything, is the referee or the umpire's job, to not let the game get completely out of hand. That does not mean you are now a focal point of the show. Angel Hernandez has been doing this for years. CB Buckner is just as bad.
And the thing about it is, these guys don't ever get in trouble. Umpires don't get in trouble. There's no accountability for umpires. Aaron Boone's going to get fined for getting ejected from a game. He had to miss a game, and he's going to get fined. And Hunter Wendelstedt will face no repercussions. He'll umpire his next assignment, and his day and his career will go on. And
can he try to get that fine overturned?
You would hope, right?
There's video that he did nothing wrong.
Yeah, his lips were literally shut.
It's ridiculous.
At the very least, he's going to have to go through that appeal process, and there's nothing like that for Hunter Wendelstedt. They don't have to answer questions. Umpires don't, they don't face scrutiny from the media, and they don't face scrutiny from the umpires.
Do they have the pool reporters for umpires in baseball, or is that just in the NFL?
I believe that's just in the NFL. Maybe in the playoffs you get pool reporters for the crew chief.
We need umpire term limits.
We do.
That's the next step. We need
accountability for umpires, and for God's sake, the robot strike zone immediately.
Mock Draft Monday is coming up to lead off the 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. now, 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk getting started. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis here with you in studio high up on Huntoon Hill. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today on the program. You are welcome to be a part of the show. You can hit us up on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. No more wasted money and no more wasted materials, because Top City Metal Supply will cut the exact lengths of steel, stainless steel, and aluminum you need for your project's specifications. So go check out Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field here in the capital city. 580 Sports Talk is also the name of our YouTube channel. Head to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk. Subscribe to the channel while you're there. We're almost up to 500. We are looking forward to hitting that benchmark, so subscribe if you haven't already. You can watch the show and comment live as well. You can also find the video stream of today's show through YouTube over on our website, 580wibw.com. That's also where you will find the link to the Alpha Media Choose Your Trip contest. Click on Choose Your Trip 2024 and enter the following keyword between now and 4 o'clock. Right on 4 o'clock on the dot, the keyword no longer works. So you have to enter it within the next 53 minutes. Your 3 o'clock hour keyword is listening. 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 So again, 580wibw.com. Click on Choose Your Trip, enter the keyword, and you'll be entered with your chance to win a trip to anywhere at all. Alpha Media is going to cover it. Luxury hotel, airfare, all of it. They're going to cover it. All you have to do is go enter the keyword at 580wibw.com. We've got 2 more keywords coming up in the 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock hours today. Here in this 3 o'clock hour, we've got Mock Draft Monday. In a moment, we'll recap the weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly, and Matt Verderame is going to join us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline, plus your texts on the Top City Metal Supply text line and your comments on the YouTube feed as well. All right, let's dive in. We've got plenty of mocks to get to this week. This is our final Mock Draft Monday. We have a couple more coming up tomorrow. Let's start off. We got a couple of 7-rounders to get to. Let's start with Dane Brugler from The Athletic. I really like Dane's work. I think he does a great job. He's been on the program before. We can call him a friend of the program. Sure, why not? He does an incredible job. His draft guide, called The Beast, is the best draft guide you can get. And it's included if you're an Athletic subscriber. I know this sounds like an advertisement, but I'm telling you, it is absolutely worth it if you are into the NFL draft. He's got something like 1,400 player profiles. It is absurd. So here's who he's got going to the Kansas City Chiefs. 32nd overall pick, end of the first round, A.D. Mitchell, wide receiver, Texas. That is a name we have had included a whole bunch. Later this week, it'll either be tomorrow or Wednesday, we're going to do our guys for this draft, either guys that we think are just perfect fits for the Chiefs or guys that we just think are going to be hits no matter where they end up at some point in the draft. A.D. Mitchell is number 1 on my list for the Chiefs. I think this is the perfect fit. He's a guy who can win on the outside. You can use him as a bigger slot. He's got speed. He can catch the ball. He's physical at the point of the catch. That's the wording I want to use. The kind of guy that in a lesser wide receiver class is probably a top 20 pick. In fact, I would go beyond probably. If you didn't also have a class that included Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors and Roma Dunze and Brian Thomas and a million other dudes, A.D. Mitchell's a top 20 pick. I think that highly of him. I am all good with him at number 32. So things get interesting as we move on. Round 2, pick 64, Max Melton, cornerback, Rutgers. That's a name that's picked up a lot of steam recently. His brother, Bo, also went to Rutgers. He is a member of the Green Bay Packers. He was the only Packer who had a 100-yard receiving game last year. There's a fun little trivia fact for you. I like Max Melton. He's a good athlete, really fast, usable tools on the outside. If second round is where you have to get him because you think he's going to go in the third elsewhere, I think that's a decent value. If you're willing to say that's a big enough need at corner, you'll take a top 65-ish talent and use it on use a top 65 pick on that need. I'm cool with it. Frankly,
that's what I was going to say is if they feel it's their need, then get it.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. I think you can never have enough dudes who can cover, especially in a spread-happy NFL. I'm cool with Max Melton there. First offensive lineman is an interior lineman, third round, 95th pick, Christian Mahogany, which I wanted to come up with a joke about another religion and another type of wood, but am not clever enough to do it. So Christian Mahogany, interior offensive lineman from Boston College in the third round. We'll get to that more momentarily. Fourth round, running back. This is a name we have not seen a lot, but I love it. Bucky Irving from Oregon. This dude is so fun. He was on a really, really fun Oregon offense. He might have been the most fun player right next to Troy Franklin last year. I like Bucky Irving a lot.
So there is consensus that this is not a great running back draft, and that there is not likely to be a running back selected in the first round. And there would be people who are not surprised if a running back is not even selected in the second round. It is just not a great class of running backs. There's not a Jahmyr Gibbs in this class. There's not a Saquon Barkley in this class. That being said, every mock draft I've seen that has mocked a running back to the Chiefs in the mid rounds, I really like the player. Like, I like Will Shipley. I love Bucky Irving. Like, you watched him play at Oregon. That is a player. And we're going to talk about another one here a little bit later on in this segment who I really like as well. I think the Chiefs can do well for themselves to find a running back on day 3, round 4 or 5, and find somebody who I think can help them right away.
Can he protect? That's the number one thing. Playmaker at running back as your number 2 running back behind Pacheco. Great, awesome. Got to be able to pass protect. That has to be an asset. And if you think Bucky Irving can do that, you take him in the 4th round. You say, great, there's our RB2 for the next 4 years. And if you don't re-sign Pacheco, then he's RB1 2 years from now. And you live with that. And I like the player. I like Bucky Irving. I like Will Shipley a lot. I agree with you 100% there. Those two and Trey Benson from Florida State are probably my 3 favorite running backs in the whole class. I like Benson a lot too. So you get Irving there, cool. A 5th round, first pick, Brennan Jackson, edge rusher from Washington State. He's a decent player, 5th round, that's fine. 5th round as well, Jordan Jefferson from LSU. He's back. He's eligible. Jordan Jefferson. This Jordan Jefferson looks a lot different than the other one, considering this one is white and a defensive lineman.
Yes, proportionally and in terms of melanin.
Yes.
Very different Jordan Jefferson.
Of course, the former LSU quarterback, just Jordan Jefferson from the early 2010s. And then in the 7th round, Garrett Greenfield, offensive tackle from South Dakota State. That's obviously a project pick. Thoughts on Dane Brugler's 7-round Chiefs mock draft here?
He doesn't seem to find a good fit at offensive tackle.
That's what jumped out to me too. It said Wanye Morris or Donovan Smith or Project Garrett Greenfield in the 7th round would be good enough at left tackle. I don't know that I love that approach. Maybe he felt as though the board did not fall the way it needed to for the Chiefs to take a tackle in the 2nd or 3rd round. Because I'm cool with Mitchell first. I have no problem at all with taking him first. I would have put a little bit more emphasis on getting an offensive tackle, though. That's just me personally.
I'd be surprised if there wasn't. Even going offensive line in the 3rd round with Mahogany, who I like his brother Rich Mahogany.
Nice.
I'm told that
more clever than I can.
I've heard that Ron Burgundy has some closets that smell like Christian Mahogany's brother Rich. But I would be very surprised if there's not a tackle selected by the Chiefs in the first 3 rounds. Day 1 or day 2, I think they're going to come out of that. However many picks they end up making, they had 3 of them, 32, 64, 95. I think on the first 2 days of the draft, they're going to come away with 1 pass catcher and 1 tackle. And I don't know what if they even make 3 picks, what that 3rd pick would be. I don't know, but I would be very, very surprised if it is not a pass catcher and a tackle in some order, because those seem to be the most urgent needs for the team. And I think that this is a draft where you can draft for need a little bit. You don't have to worry about going BPA here because your roster is a championship roster. You just need to fill some holes and supplement your depth at a couple of important offensive positions.
For what it's worth, so he's got Max Melton, the cornerback, going to the Chiefs with the last pick of the 2nd round. Your next offensive lineman off the board, funny enough, 71st overall, so that is the 7th pick of the 3rd round, Dominic Pooney, who is probably a guard in the NFL, but he can play tackle. He played tackle really well, in fact. Did not allow a sack the last 2 seasons at KU, or it was 1 sack 2 years ago at KU as a tackle. And then a few project players, Roger Rosengarten from Washington, a little bit later in the 3rd, Blake Fisher from Notre Dame, who we've seen mocked to the Chiefs before in the 3rd round. Those first 2 rounds, I think, are where it makes the most sense. I would almost lean, if you don't think the board is going to fall for you, go tackle first, pass catcher second, as much as I like A.D. Mitchell. But that is what stood out to me as well, Spencer, not emphasizing offensive tackle in this one here. And again, I love A.D. Mitchell. I think Melton makes a lot of sense, and I like the Bucky Irving pick a lot. I would be content with this group but I do think you are leaving one of your biggest needs untouched, which is a worry to me. Next up, we go to Kansas City itself. Nick Jacobs of KSHB TV. He hosts the 41's The Mic podcast with Matt Derrick. Definitely check it. Would recommend you check it out. They do a great job doing that over for KSHB and for Chiefs Digest. We'll get to Matt's mock draft tomorrow, and we'll see if he gets his pick right when we talk to him coming up on Friday's show. Your picks from Nick Jacobs. He goes Ladd McConkey, the wide receiver from Georgia, with the final pick of the first round. I know you're not a huge fan of McConkey. I like the player. That's fine. I have a problem with it, though, based on a later pick in this draft, which we'll get to. Would you be content with that, or is he just not a difference maker for you?
He's not a difference maker for me.
Okay.
I do not think Ladd McConkey is a first-round talent. I do not think he is a first-round talent.
I like McConkey as a player. The limitation I see with Ladd McConkey is I don't know that I don't think he will ever be a number one receiver. I think he will be he's like a more athletic Hunter Renfrow in that regard, like a good NFL player, but not a guy who is ever going to be the guy other teams try to take away.
I know he dealt with some injuries this last year at Georgia. And so I reserve the right to be loudly wrong. It won't be the first time, but I never felt watching Georgia games like, oh man, this other team better figure out something to do with this Ladd McConkey because he's slicing them up. He did have a really good, he did a Senior Bowl?
He may have.
And he had a good combine. I know that. His measurables when he tested were really good. But that's what this feels like to me. This feels like a bit of an overreaction to his measurables and some highlights than a guy that I didn't think impacted games in the way that any of the other receivers that we're talking about in the later part of the first round impacted games.
You are correct. He was actually voted number one wide receiver at the Senior Bowl this year.
Yeah.
Which is impressive. I need to make another comparison. Ladd McConkey is going to play in the slot in the NFL. I compared him to Hunter Renfrow. That is steering so far into a stereotype. Robert Woods, good receiver. No one's confusing Robert Woods with the number one option, though. Yeah. He was never that kind of guy. That's what I think the kind of ceiling is for McConkey, which if you're content with that, I could see the pick. If you're not thinking he's got that kind of ceiling, I probably wouldn't take him with the first round pick. Second round pick for Nick Jacobs. We've talked about him before. Amagaji, the offensive tackle from Yale. Do you remember
Karan Amagaji?
Karan Amagaji. Again, some people love this dude. Some people love him a lot. In fact, Dan Brugler had him in the top 50 picks in his mock draft. If you think he can play if you think he is good enough that you could see him playing his first year with the Chiefs, take him. Fine. I can live with that. If you think he is a multi-year project, I don't think you can afford to take him as a top 2 round pick. I just don't. That's too big of a need.
Yeah. You've already got Wanye Morris, who you kind of thought that about when you drafted him.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't think you can have two projects competing against each other because then what's your plan C?
Yeah.
And two, I think they're still saying he's a project by openly admitting that he's not the guy.
I mean, shoot, he never would have played if not for some strange, undisclosed neck stinger that Donovan Smith had that never really went away. If not for that, Wanye Morris never plays this past year and would have essentially gotten the quote-unquote red shirt year. Number 3 pick for the Chiefs, third round, number 95, Mason Smith, interior defensive lineman from LSU. He was a huge recruit, if I remember correctly.
Yes, big deal. And had a great freshman year, and then I think he ripped up his knee.
Yes.
First game of his sophomore year 2 years ago.
Yes.
And came back last year. There's a big ceiling there, but the floor is why a guy like him would fall to round 3. I love taking a swing on a high ceiling player in the middle rounds, and that feels like a Brett Veach kind of pick.
So Smith got injured. He hurt his leg actually during his freshman year and then tore his ACL his sophomore year. Last year had 27 tackles, 4.5 sacks declared for the draft, coming off of an ACL. So that is one benefit if you take him, is he's already had that comeback year, which is usually productive, but down from after tearing an ACL. That's kind of the trend we've seen with football players in recent years. So you've already had that comeback year. It just happened for him in college. 4th round pick, Layden Robinson, interior offensive lineman, Texas A&M. Also, I believe was a fairly highly touted recruit when he was coming out of high school. I have not watched a ton of guard tape this year. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Don't know a whole lot about him. Depth piece, 4th round, fine. Kamani Vidal, running back, Troy.
I love this player.
Okay.
I love Kamani Vidal. Huge fan of him. Watched him play against Kansas State. I like his burst. I really like this player. I think that, again, as we were talking about when we brought up Bucky Irving, there's a lot of running backs that are going to be available early day 3 that I think are ideal RB2 type players if they fit. And like you mentioned, if you're going to be a Chiefs running back, you have to be able to help in pass protection. Otherwise, you're not going to get on the field.
So here's the scout from Nick Jacobs. And by the way, Nick Jacobs is not just a guy who works at KSHB. He's been doing this for a long time and is really good at these scouts. So the con here for Vidal is he's 5'8" and only 215 pounds. He's not big. Here are the positives, though. Deceptive speed that would work well paired with Isaiah Pacheco, more explosive than he's given credit for, doesn't hesitate when hitting the hole, good vision, he catches well out of the backfield, and is a force in pass protection. If he's got all of those things, who cares if he's short?
Yeah, he's a Chief, is what he is.
You can be short and pass protect well.
Yeah.
I mean, Sproles was a good pass protector.
You just got to get into the chest of those dudes.
Yeah, that's
maybe sometimes that's easier when you're 5'8".
Yeah, harder to see you. It's why elephants are afraid of mice. I would be happy with that.
Yeah, I think he would be a good pick.
At the 159th spot, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he put up a lot in the last 2 seasons in college. I mean, if you look, he put up, over 420 carries and 2,790 plus yards with 24 touchdowns over his final 2 seasons of college.
Yeah, very, very productive.
Yeah.
And I would be more than happy with that in the 5th round, especially. Also in the 5th round, Anthony Gold, wide receiver from Oregon State, fine player, 5th round. I have no problem with the Chiefs taking 2 pass catchers this year. No problem at all. My one hang up here is that means you drafted 2 slot receivers.
Yeah.
Is that what you want? Do you want to build the entire plane out of slot receivers? I don't know that you do. I don't know that makes a whole lot of sense.
No,
the Chiefs.
You got to have another big wide receiver who isn't Justin Watson.
And I've told you before that I like Luke McCaffrey this year. Luke McCaffrey is probably going to play in the slot in the NFL. He's also a more vertical slot player, and that's generally thinking the Chiefs would pair him with, say, an A.D. Mitchell or a Xavier Worthy, who is a legitimate outside guy. So I would like that kind of pairing, or I'd like the Gold pick better if you had a true outside X or Z receiver who you were taking in the 1st round. Finally, 7th round, pick 221, Jarius Monroe, cornerback, Tulane. Cool. Nick Jacobs says he's a good tackler, takes proper steps for good form tackles, does not panic, trusts his athletic ability, not especially fast, but he's comfortable in both man or zone. Awesome. If Brett Veach and Dave Merritt want him, fine. I've got no problem with that. Of these two groups, these 2 7-round mock drafts, which one do you like better?
I like the Nick Jacobs mock because it addresses what the Chiefs' needs are, even if I don't like the player at 32 as much as I like the player that Dane Brugler has at 32.
I think I'm on the flip side. I think I like the Brugler one better because I think you're getting more top-end talent in that one. I think if we're talking just based on need, wide receiver, offensive tackle, first 2 rounds, yes, Jacobs hits on both of those. If you're getting A.D. Mitchell, Max Melton, and Bucky Irving, though, I'm all in on that. I think that's an awesome haul of talent when you're picking so late in these rounds, too, to get that group of players. One other one. Spencer, your pick.
What?
Which one did you like better?
What you said.
The Brugler one?
Yeah, the points you just mentioned were what I was going to say.
I love that talent. I think that's a lot of top-tier talent.
Yeah.
Finally, Ben Solak from the Ringer. That's pretty funny. Ben Solak from the Ringer. He went 1 round. Jordan Morgan, offensive tackle, Arizona, to the Chiefs with the final pick of the 1st round. I will tell you this, listening to a bunch of different football podcasts, reading a bunch of draft stuff over the past couple of weeks, a lot of people have said Jordan Morgan is the best offensive tackle prospect that no one's talking about. That is essentially what I've picked up on Jordan Morgan. And if that's the case, fine.
Can he handle the speed rush? Because that's something that I would like to see the Chiefs prioritize with any of their offensive tackle prospects. The scouting report from the Ringer says he's an outstanding run blocker, has positional versatility, so could kick inside to guard, even though he's not real tall. He's 6'3", 310. Can he handle the speed rush?
Yeah.
Because that's like the last couple of years we've seen Donovan Smith struggle with that. Orlando Brown Jr. famously not great at that, great at everything else.
Yeah.
but not great at handling like the speedier
Slow to
pass
kick out.
rushers.
Yeah.
Slow to kick out. So like, and the Chiefs, I think, need that because there's a lot of speed rush ability in the AFC West in particular. The teams you see the most often have guys who can get around the corner and hurry, like a Max Crosby, like a Joey Bosa, like even the kid for the Broncos who's hardly on the field, but
Browning?
Yes, Browning, who's
Baron Browning.
Baron Browning, shown a lot of potential. Speed rush. I don't think that the Chiefs have been good enough against speed rushers, and I think they need to find a guy who is going to be good enough against those sort of pass rushers. And if that's Jordan Morgan, great. I just thought it was interesting. This is the first time I've seen him. Like, seen just about every other offensive tackle mock to the Chiefs. This is the first time I'm starting to hear about Jordan Morgan maybe sneaking into the first round. Also, a lot of buzz about Houston tackle Patrick Paul maybe sneaking into the first round.
Yes, I've seen a lot of that.
And that could be a guy that the Chiefs might have an eye on late.
If you've got a player you can't wait to see if the Chiefs take him on Thursday or Friday or Saturday, let us know either in the Top City Metal Supply text line or in the 580 Sports Talk YouTube comments. More mocks coming tomorrow. We've got a lot to get to this week. We will have ours, a first round for each of us coming up on Wednesday's show. We'll do our annual competition, see who is able to be earn the crown of best mock drafter for 2024. Let's not forget, it was me last year. Coming up next, we'll recap the weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly. Then Matt Verderame will join us here on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get to a quick recap of the weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly here on 580 Sports Talk. A couple of quick goods for me. Number one, local athlete superstardom this weekend. How about Ryan Miller from Seaman? The sophomore, or is she a junior this year? I can't remember
Sophomore.
Ryan's year. Yeah,
I
just
think,
a sophomore. Won the 1600 and the 3200 at the KU relays this past week. The Kansas relays. That's awesome for Ryan Miller. She is going to be so good when she gets to the college ranks. She's already so good in the high school ranks. Really, really impressive to be a two-discipline winner this weekend. Also, finally got to bust out my new lawnmower this weekend.
Hey, now.
Oh, it felt so good.
I also mowed the front yard this weekend. We had we had too many branches in the front yard to do the branch cleanup in the backyard.
Yeah.
So we're dividing and conquering. By we, I mean me. So next week will be the backyard mow. My good for me, I got to call some baseball this weekend. Got to step in and do coverage on the MIAA network for Washburn baseball, their final home weekend of the season in MIAA play. Washburn dropping 2 out of 3 to Central Oklahoma. But I did the game Saturday and Sunday and really enjoyed myself. And if you tuned in on the MIAA network, I hope you enjoyed it too.
Back to your point about lawn mowing.
Mm-hmm.
I miss lawn mowing. Is that weird?
No, not at all.
You are more than welcome to come and mow mine.
For a small fee?
Hey, I don't get paid to do it.
No, like when I was like 11 or 12, I started mowing the lawn, and then I started making money, doing neighbors when I was like 14, 15.
Sure.
And I haven't, because my parents moved 2018 to a townhouse, and they've lived in townhouses since.
Yeah.
I've not mowed a lawn since then. And I just the piece of doing it. Like,
I agree.
I miss it.
Number one chore for me is lawn mowing.
My good is that the Nationals had a good weekend. They won 2 out of 3. They have 10 wins already. They're 10 and 11, but they already into double-digit wins.
Good for them.
But my bad ties into it.
All right, do your bad then.
We thought everything was good when Steven Strasburg retired and all the contract went away. And well, this weekend they had their I guess it was a 5-year anniversary weekend. They're playing the Astros.
Sure.
So it was a 5-year anniversary weekend, and they gave out
of when they won the World Series.
Yeah, when they won the World Series, they gave out rings that was the giveaway, like fake, World Series rings. The people that were giving out the rings were the players on the 2019 team that have retired. So Brian Dozier, Howie Kendrick, guys like that. And then they introduced them, and then they had video board. They had guys that are on other teams now, shown on the video board talking about 2019. The one person that was absent from that team,
Steven Strasburg,
and everybody thought he was going to be there because they resolved the contract situation with his retirement. But clearly there's still some bad blood there.
My bad. This has nothing to do with sports. I need country music artists to stop ripping off other songs and passing them off as their own songs. I heard a redo of Drift Away today. One of the worst songs I've ever heard. Make your own music.
Isn't that the Uncle Cracker redo? Isn't that years old by now?
There might be another.
Is there another one?
It's the same music with new lyrics. It's so bad.
What's the song called?
Chevrolet. It's Drift Away, but rhymed like Chevrolet.
Oh, yeah, that is a bad song.
It's terrible. It's absolute butt.
Sounds awful. I hope I never hear it.
Cole Swindell ripped off Jody Messina a while back. Just make your own music. Stop.
My bad was in the process of clearing my front yard of sticks. I believe I have injured a hamstring. I am woefully out of shape.
You going on the IL?
I might need a 10-day IL stint, yes.
Yes, actually, speaking of that, my ugly, as good as it was to get the new lawnmower out, I was at least a week late. Oh, my God, it was so deep. I burned through so much gas. It was unbelievable. Do you have an ugly?
I do not. I had a nice weekend.
Good. Ugly?
Yes. The Capitals got blown out 4-1 yesterday.
That's tough.
We'll get there in the playoff roundup vibe check.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
there's a surprise with the playoff roundup as well.
We're looking forward to that. We're also looking forward to Matt Verderame because he's going to join us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline next year on 580 Sports Talk. It is time for the last time before the start of the NFL draft. Matt Verderame will join us here on 580 Sports via the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. You can find Matt's work in Sports Illustrated and at SI.com. He is also the host of the Matt Verderame Show on Patreon and That Football Show with Tucker Franklin over on the Kansas City Sports Network. Matt, it's finally draft week. How pumped are you?
I'm very pumped because that means in a week from now, we just know who's on whose team. And we don't have to sit here and go through 800 iterations of a mock draft. Some guy on Twitter with 8 numbers at the end of his name. Like, you don't understand football. So that'll be great. I cannot wait for that day to come.
Ooh, what is your favorite criticism of mock drafts? Which, let's all remember, mock drafts are supposed to be fun and like conversation starters, and people get so furious about them for no reason. Do you prefer the you don't know anything about football or the, oh, well, there's no chance he'll be there? Because, you know, obviously everyone on Twitter's omniscient.
I think I prefer the guy who just screams you don't know about football. And I especially prefer the guy who says that because he played high school football and he played right bench for 2 years. And that was like the pinnacle of his life. But he understands football, and you couldn't possibly understand football because he played varsity in 1976. That's my personal favorite. That guy, and that guy is very prevalent. Like that's the guy who, if you go to a high school football game, like you go back to your high school and you're like, yeah, go to a game, check it out, see what's happening. Like that's the guy who's wearing his varsity jacket, and after every play, he's like, I'll tell you what I would have done on that play. Like he's that guy. That guy is my personal favorite because the jokes are in.
Who is the player, Matt? Because this process, you know, some folks call it silly season, smokescreen season. It takes so long, and I do wish the NFL would move the draft back a week or two, like back to where it used to be, because man, this drags out for so long. Who is the prospect this year who has been overanalyzed to death? I think it's Drake May. I think people have talked themselves out of a guy who, in many classes, would be the number one quarterback taken for really no reason at all, in my opinion. Who is that guy who has been overanalyzed to death this year?
I think it's Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, just all these people who are like, well, you know, actually, when I looked at the tape the 37th time, I would take Malik Neighbors. Like, would you really? Like, if you actually had the job of that general manager, and I'm not like, it's nothing against Malik Neighbors and Rome Odunze, who are both going to be top 10 picks, deservedly so. But it's like, if you were the Cardinals general manager and you said, okay, we're not going to trade out, we're going to take a guy. You're really not going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. there? Like, I just don't understand some of these people who, honest to God, have these takes of like we all just watched the college football season. That guy's the best wide receiver in this class by a mile. Like, he's a generational prospect. And you're not going to take it. And then you get people who really go off the deep end. Like, I take Brian Thomas Jr. over him. And you're like, look, maybe one of those guys ends up having a better pro career. Fine, that's completely plausible. But based on what you know right now, there is no argument that you would take Marvin Harrison Jr. second or third in this receiver class. You just wouldn't do it. And on the other side of the coin, I feel like it's the opposite of that with J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy was like kind of a guy, like, yeah, maybe he's a first-round pick, like all throughout the season. And then we hit the Senior Bowl and we hit the Combine. It was right around the Combine and people all of a sudden were like, I'll tell you what, take him top 3. And like, why? Like, what happened between the national title game and now that he went from being like maybe a first-round pick to just absolutely in pen, he's the top 5 pick. We get these weird narratives and people just go crazy with it.
I want J.J. McCarthy to be successful because we come from the same hometown, but I'm right there with you. I don't know what happened that made people all of a sudden in the last couple of months say, yes, this guy is going to fix a franchise. I feel like that's the kind of move that gets a GM fired. When it comes to the Chiefs in particular, Matt, we were just discussing this earlier on this hour. If they go pass catcher, offensive tackle with their first 2 picks in some order, does that alone make it a successful draft for Kansas City?
I think at least in the immediate, yeah. Like, I think you'd have to feel like they hit their needs. And obviously, you know, hindsight's going to tell you what's going to happen. But like, yes, if they take, you know, I don't know, Patrick Paul in the first round, tackle out of Houston, and then take Ricky Pearsall in the second round or Jalen Polk. Yeah, I mean, I think if you're Brett Veach, you at least feel like, hey, you know what? Hit on our needs, got guys with decent value, and you play it out from there. Like, I will say, I think this draft, one thing that is interesting, and I could see this causing a mental breakdown in Kansas City briefly before, everybody kind of starts coming around. There is such depth at tackle and at receiver this year that if you're Brett Veach, you're not necessarily pigeonholed into drafting one in the first round. Like, if you get to pick 32, or if they trade up, whatever, pick 20-something, and they're just like, look, we love Nate Wiggins, corner out of Clemson, or we love Kool-Aid McKinstry, corner out of Alabama, or we think Latu, the edge rusher out of UCLA, we think he's the 10th best player in the draft, and he's available at 32. They could do that. Like, they could theoretically take that guy and then say, okay, in the second round, we're going to get one of these tackles that in a lot of drafts would be a top 40 pick. And then the third round, we're going to get a receiver that I don't know that there's that much difference between the 6th receiver in this draft and the 12th. So they could do. Now, the other side of that, of course, is they could sit there and say, hey, look, we think that the difference between Brian Thomas Jr. and Ladd McConkey is significant enough that we'll move up to 20 if he's available. Like, that's the game within the game of all this. And, the Bills draft 28, the Ravens draft 30. Like, do you try to jump those teams? Maybe you do. Maybe you say, you know what, it's worth it. They did it once with McDuffie, and look how that worked out. So it's possible, and it's all part of what makes the draft very interesting.
Our guest is Matt Verderame, who covers the National Football League in a variety of places, including Sports Illustrated, SI.com. Also his own show on Patreon, The Matt Verderame Show, and with the KC Sports Network as well. You can find him on Twitter at Matt Verderame. You can hear him on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline every Monday here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, in your mind, which teams are the most poised entering this draft to get immediately better if they knock the draft out of the park this weekend? Are there any teams that you think are positioned either with the draft capital they already have or with the draft capital that they might acquire in a trade, or with the needs that they have that you feel like they can meet in their draft picks? What teams do you think are poised to get better right away in a way that Houston did or Detroit did last year?
I think Chicago just drafts Caleb Williams and he becomes what he could become. They could be good right away. Like, I'm not saying they win the Super Bowl, but they could be a playoff team. I'll give you I think Minnesota, if Minnesota gets a quarterback, that team around that quarterback is going to be good. Like, you're going to be a quarterback walking into Kevin O'Connell's offense with Darrick Shaw as your left tackle and weapons all over the place, and Jefferson and Addison and Hawkins, and a pretty good defense with Brian Flores running the show there now. Like, they're interesting. Another team, and this is kind of more to your point of a Houston, like a team that comes out of nowhere. How about the Cardinals? Cardinals have a lot of draft picks. A lot of draft picks. They pick number 4. They pick number 27. They pick in the first couple of picks in the second round. They have 2 early picks in the third round. Like, they could draft at all those spots, and you have 5 picks in the first, whatever it is, 75 selections. You could also trade out of 4 and get a fortune. Like, there is a world where they could trade back with Minnesota and get 11 and 23. And now you have 11, 23, 27, a second rounder in the first couple of picks and 2/3. Like, they could be interesting. Like, especially if Kyler Murray kind of finds his footing in this new regime and everything else. Obviously, last year coming back from the torn ACL. Like, look, again, and not a team I'd sit there and go, oh, they're going to win the Super Bowl. But like, a team you can look at and go, they could get a lot better very quickly. They're going to have the ammunition. They got to nail the pick.
To your own personal opinion, Matt, which player do you think you are furthest away from the consensus on, whether that's a positive or a negative evaluation of a first-round prospect? Which player do you find yourself saying, I don't see what the consensus sees on this guy?
This draft is so deep in a lot of ways. I think a lot of kids, even second rounders, normally you look at a second round and they're like, all right, there's a lot of holes in the game. I can choose a second round pick. I think some of these guys in the second round, like the first 10, 15 guys, can be first rounders in a lot of years. That being said, the one guy I don't get, and maybe I am going to eat my words to the end of time, and that's cool. I hope, in some ways, I hope I do, because I mean, this kid had a good career. I don't get Bo Nix. I just don't get it. I watched him a lot at Auburn. I am not a huge college football guy because I have a wife and kids, and if I spent Saturday and Sunday watching nothing but football, I'd be forced. But I try to watch a lot of SEC games because I just feel like that's the closest thing to the NFL. And I watched Bo Nix easily a dozen times at Auburn. He was not good. And I mean, like, not good for Auburn. Like, forget for the NFL. Like, he wasn't good at Auburn. Transferred to Oregon, put up video game numbers this year, 45 touchdowns, 3 picks. I get it. I saw him at the Senior Bowl. He struggled mightily at the Senior Bowl. Was not even in the same stratosphere as Michael Penix that week in terms of just physical talent. I think there's a world here where we're sitting here on Friday and we're like, man, it's pick 50 and Bo Nix is still there. Like, I don't think that happens because quarterbacks just get so overdrafted that I think somebody will just say, look, we got to take a chance here. But there's a world where he just slides like Malik Willis style, where you're like, oh my God, like, is he going to go in the top like 70 picks? I know some people love him. I just don't. I would take Michael Penix 1,000 times out of 1,000 over Bo Nix. And they both have huge question marks. Like, they're both 24. Penix tore his ACL twice. You know, they both spent a ton of time in college with transfers and everything else. But I don't see it. Like, Bo Nix to me is like a developmental guy that if it works out, great. But like, there's no way in hell I'm burning a top 30 pick on him.
We're joined by Matt Verderame of the Sports Illustrated here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. And Matt, a team that needs a quarterback but appears to have not made a decision on a quarterback, had an interesting visit set up last Tuesday in the Commanders where they took a bunch of quarterbacks and took them to play Top Golf. A bunch was made of that. What do you make of them kind of deciding based upon how they interact with their peers, as I believe it was stated by their GM?
I think it's really smart, actually. I think it's a really good idea. And you don't usually say that about Washington. But, like, new ownership.
New era.
Office, like, yeah, new times. Like, I actually thought it was really intelligent. Because, like, let's think about this for a second. If you're trying to decide who you're going to take to run your franchise, now, let's be real. If you're taking a quarterback, that guy's the CEO of your organization, okay? And that is a lot to put on a kid who's 21, 22 years old, never been in that position before. Like, I'm kind of curious. Let's all go to Top Golf. Open bar. Who's annihilated by like 9 o'clock at night? Who is kind of the natural leader? Who kind of takes charge? Who's the guy who doesn't handle criticism well? Maybe he's slicing the ball and, like you say something about it, he gets all bent out of shape. I want to know. Like, I want to see in real time, how do you interact a little bit here? I feel like if you come in one-on-one with a visit, you're always going to be on your best behavior unless you're a complete idiot. Like, in that kind of setting, you know, you're around peers, maybe you know some of the kids from other, you know, situations, you let your guard down a little bit. I actually think it's a really interesting idea. I like that they did it. I think it's maybe it's the Bachelor style of NFL drafting, but I like it. I actually think it's intriguing.
Matt Verderame is our guest. He covers the NFL for Sports Illustrated at SI.com, on the Matt Verderame Show and at the KC Sports Network, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Go follow him on Twitter as well. Really good follow on social media. At Matt Verderame is his Twitter handle. The running backs class this year, Matt, we were talking about it in terms of the Chiefs context earlier, that middle rounds, day 3, probably a good time for the Chiefs to take a running back. And there are some interesting players who had good college careers, but overall not a great running back class. Where would you estimate, where would you assume the first running back goes, and where might we see a run on running backs this year?
I think the first one's going to go in the second round. I think that's probably most likely. Is it possible the guy goes in the first? Maybe. I think it's Jonathan Brooks, by the way. I think he'll be the first guy off the board, but I have a hard time seeing anybody go in the first round at running back. It's just the class is too deep all the way out, around the horn elsewhere. I think it's probably around like 40, 35, 40. But it's not a good class of running backs. It really isn't. Like, I don't think, if you're looking at classes around the league or around this rookie crop, you're like, all right, where's the weak point? Safety, linebacker, running back. I think some people are split on defensive tackle, you know, how strong that class is, although you can make an argument it's not too bad. But I think safety, running back, and linebacker, it's not a strong class. I don't think we see a running back till day 2.
Last one I've got for you, last position to touch on anyway. edge rusher. Again, probably not a great top-end group of edge rushers, but certainly some interesting pieces. Latu, Turner. I like Jared Verse a lot. Chop Robinson is a very polarizing prospect. Who's the best of the bunch? I know a lot of people like Dallas Turner, saw him a lot at Alabama. Latu from UCLA has gotten a lot of pub. Who do you think is the best edge rusher available?
I like Latu. If he's healthy, and I know there's some concern about his neck and whatnot, if he's healthy, I think that kid is a beast. He's a great player. I also really like Verse, Turner. To me, those are the top three guys. And then after that, then you get into the Chop Robinsons of the world. Guys who I think are late first-round picks, somebody like that. And there's some guys that are interesting too in day two, like Adisa Isaac out of Penn State, another Nittany Lion who I think you'll look at and go, that kid can run. Michael Hall. I watched him at the Senior Bowl. He was excellent out of Ohio State. He's probably a third-round pick. A guy who doesn't have like the statistics, but he's one of those kids, like he just screams potential. Can you coach him up right? Kid out of Mizzou, who the name is escaping me at the moment, but is another kid who might be a first-round pick. I don't think it's a phenomenal class of edge rushers, but I think the edge rush class is more depth than it is flash. I'd say the same thing about the corners. Like I think it's more. There are guys to be had. There's just not that like, oh my God, this guy's an all-pro, ready-made coming out. Like there's no Aiden Hutchinson, there's no Sauce Gardner, but I think there's a lot of guys who can help a team in the first couple of days in the draft at those spots.
Make sure you are checking out Matt Verderame's great work covering the NFL. You can find it at SI.com. You can find it on the Matt Verderame Show on Patreon. You can also find it on That Football Show on the KC Sports Network. Matt joins us every Monday here on 580 Sports Talk on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline to talk all about the NFL. Matt, enjoy the draft and then enjoy a big drink on Sunday when it's all over.
Oh, I'm going to probably drink the ocean. Thank you. Appreciate it.
That is Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated. Awesome draft insight, as always. We've got to get to a break for the news. We'll talk some more draft to lead off the 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. now it's the 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis, all joining you here from the 580 studios on Huntoon Hill in the capital city. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today, whether it's on 580 AM, 104.9 FM, online at 580WIBW.com, or on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel. We got another keyword for you. It's the final week of the Alpha Media Choose Your Trip contest, and we've got a new keyword. All you have to do is go to our website, 580WIBW.com, and click on the Choose Your Trip link. It is in the center of the page, right below the YouTube stream for today, which you can find on our website. You go down one link. It says Choose Your Trip 2024. Between now and the top of the 5 o'clock hour, enter this keyword for your chance to win a trip to anywhere you want to go. The keyword is playlist. 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 One word, not multiple words, just one word, playlist. And that will enter you into the Alpha Media Choose Your Trip contest. You ever see the movie Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist? It's like a teenage rom-com with a
heard of it.
early 2010s, maybe.
I have not.
Michael Cera's in it. It sucks. Don't watch it. It's not a good movie, just so you know. I once went on a date to go see it. Yeah, not with my current wife.
Didn't end up like Nick and Nora, huh?
No, our playlist was not infinite. We were also, I think, 16, so that's really not a surprise there. Here in this 4 o'clock hour of the show, we've got more draft to get to momentarily. We've got What Is Wrong With You coming up, and the latest on the transfer portal for both basketball and football. Both men's and women's basketball, by the way. Big day for Kansas State women's hoops in the portal. All that is coming up here in just a little bit. Plus your texts to the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429, and your comments on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel as well. Getting close to 500 subscribers on YouTube. We'd love for you to come and check out the channel. Let us know your thoughts on anything we're talking about. You can drop us a comment. In fact, we went up a subscriber, 481 now.
19 away.
Appreciate you guys. And again, I have no doubt in my mind we will pass 500 this weekend while I'm gone. It'll be just Dan and Spencer Thursday and Friday. Short shows each of those days. Royals play back-to-back daytime games. I will be in Tennessee. I'll be roughing it. Just kidding.
In Rocky Top?
No, fairly close. We'll be in Gatlinburg. We also have a gigantic cabin we're staying in. We are not roughing it by any means. Just me
You're
and
gonna have cable and
oh yeah.
Isn't the draft part of the weekend?
Yeah, my buddy. So it's one of my best friends since we were 10 years old. It's his bachelor party weekend. He's getting married next month, and we've all taken a weekend. One of my friends, we went to Phoenix for spring training. When I got married, we went and just spent a weekend in Austin. And now for this friend, we're going to Gatlinburg. And he said, it'd be fun to all get together and watch the draft together. And I said, sure, hell yeah. So we're spending time in a cabin, hiking, and watching the NFL draft. So me and 7 other dudes.
with the added bonus of
6 of
your buddy got you out of work during the NFL draft.
Yes, that is also true. Like, what are we going to do planning-wise for draft content? Well,
not your concern.
yeah, you guys will be in charge of that.
The only thing I don't envy is your trip to get there.
Yes. So here's the fun part. No, this is a win. I am all in on this.
You're all in on it?
I am all in on it. We're driving. So I am flying. I'm going to leave Wednesday, fly to Chicago, meet the guys, and then 6 a.m. Thursday, we're going to make the whole drive to get to Tennessee.
How long is that drive?
9 hours. And then we're going to drive back on Sunday, and I'm going to fly home.
9 hours in the car together, guys being dudes.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
Don't
Who had to be are you shifting driving or what? Like is there an all-time driver?
So here's the
who's
thing.
the turtle
Yeah,
of
who's
this
got
group and just drives everywhere.
My pal Doug, shout out to Doug. He was also one of my good friends. We went to Phoenix with him. He was in my wedding. He's a manager at Enterprise.
Okay.
So anytime anyone needs a rental car, Doug is the plug. And because of that, rental cars cheap. Unfortunately, he's the only one who can drive. So
yeah.
So he will be driving through the mountains alone.
So he's turtle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who's got the aux cord?
That is a great question. I don't think it has been determined.
I'm just going to tell you this. Apparently, it's not cool to play Luther Vandross on the aux cord.
I would have been fine with that. I would have been okay. It was Jake Laban. Let's make this very clear. It was Jake Laban
He fried me, man.
was not a fan of Luther Vandross, nor the classic rock playlist, which I'm pretty sure he described as the Forrest Gump soundtrack.
Yes, that's why I changed it to Luther Vandross.
I thought both were fine.
Like the good Luther Van, like the end. I want to play like Endless Love with a bunch of dudes in a car. Come on, give me a little more credit than that.
Just friends listen to Endless Love in the Dark. Your playlist was fine. You did just fine.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Unfortunately, I was shotgun for that trip home from the Shrine Bowl. Jake was driving and thus overruled us.
Yes.
He also, I believe, was very tired by the end of that trip.
Yeah, he was over it.
Jake was like, no, turn this off. And used another word I can't say on the radio. Turn this you-know-what off. On our trip home.
So mean.
We won't have nearly as much aux cord time this summer because the Shrine Bowl is in Emporia.
This is true.
So
It's a
it's
short jaunt.
going to be a 45-minute car ride.
When is this Shrine Bowl?
This is the last Saturday of June.
Okay.
Yes, June 29th is the Shrine Bowl weekend this
in
year.
Emporia this year.
So
Be the shortest distance I've ever had to travel for it.
you never did a Topeka, or have not yet done a Topeka one?
Haven't done a Topeka one. No, and the only one they've done in real recent vintage since I've been around was the COVID one.
Yes, the COVID one when no one
around for.
when no one else would take it.
Yes,
They're like, we'll play at Hummer.
yeah, man, and we'll do it, and you guys can social distance. And everybody came, said no, and yeah.
No, we're looking forward to it. It'll be Spencer's first. It'll be Greg's.
What's he at 32?
Something like. I was going to say 27, but I might be shortchanging him a couple.
He might text us and let us know.
I was going to say,
He
I know
did text
Greg's
us earlier.
listening.
Yeah.
I don't remember what year. Yeah, Greg's got that sick helmet that they gave him, signed by all the players.
Did a whole pregame ceremony for him.
Yeah, it was awesome. It'll be my
27. I think you're right. Because that was, I think, for his 25th, and that was 2 years ago. And then last year would have been number 26, I believe.
Yeah, this one will be my 5th.
They didn't honor him last year, but they did honor Barry Sanders. So
yeah,
who's to say which one is a bigger deal?
I would have honored Greg personally. We bring Greg out every year. I think this will be my 5th. I did the play-by-play for the last 4 in Topeka, Hutch, Pitt, and then Hayes last year. And you'll have our play-by-play responsibilities this year.
Yeah, then it'll be my 5th as well.
Okay.
17, 18, 19, and last year.
Which ones have you been?
Well, no, it'll be my 6th. 17, 18, 19.
You've done the last 2.
Yeah, I called 17, 18, 19, and then been on the sidelines the last 2 years.
Yeah. You'll enjoy it. It's a fun time. You'll be there also. Surprise.
Yeah.
You'll be there.
You've been enlisted. Yeah.
I gather that by the discussion.
This just in from Greg Akagi. Yes, 27.
There we go. Okay, I was right. The helmet was for year 25. Thank you, Greg. I don't remember a whole lot, but I remember things occasionally. That was a hell of a game, by the way. That was
the 25th one. That was the tie.
Yes, that was the tie.
That was the tie.
When all the players looked at us in the booth. Yeah, they were like, "What's going on? we don't know either. This doesn't happen." Oh gosh, last year was a good game too. We've had some really good Shrine Bowls last couple of years. That's coming up this summer. From high school football all-stars to the NFL draft. Get to a couple things here. We did have a question on the Top City Metal Supply text line a little bit earlier. Do we think the Chiefs have a chance to select Ben Sinnott, the tight end / H-back from Kansas State?
It was in a mock draft, wasn't it?
Yes, we've had this
Someone's
name
mock
come up a bunch. And there's some people, there's no one out there who straight up is saying, I don't like Ben Sinnott. It's just a matter of, are we thinking day 2 or early day 3? Most people have him as a 3rd or 4th round pick from what I've seen. Even a couple who will reach in the 2nd round, which, hey, when it's a guy you like, it's not a reach. And for Ben Sinnott and our other local guys, Dominic Pooney, Austin Booker, the KU guys, there's no such thing as a reach. I hope they all get taken in the 1st round. But that being said, I think Sinnott is on the table for K-State, especially
for Kansas City, you mean?
Or for Kansas City. Excuse me. Yeah, he's absolutely. If he wanted to come back, I'm sure K-State would take him. No, for Kansas City, yes. I think he's absolutely on the table, knowing that Noah Gray's only got 1 year left. Andy Reid is as creative as anyone when it comes to designing plays and using personnel. Travis Kelce is closer to the end of his career than the beginning of it. I think Sinnott would make sense. It just depends on where. Like if he's on the board in the 4th round, you should move up to go get Ben Sinnott, frankly. If it's pick number 64, the final pick of the 2nd round, and you don't have an offensive tackle yet, I would say, okay, probably don't take him here. Maybe that means you miss him. It is what it is. But I think he's on the board for Kansas City. I think that's absolutely possible.
Yeah, more and more I'm seeing mocks have the Chiefs selecting a tight end on day 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, again, like you said, if it's the 4th round and Ben Sinnott's still on the board, 1, I'd be surprised. And 2, I think it'd be a really good value to be able to get him in the 4th round. But I don't want to be overreact and say there's like helium with Ben Sinnott. Like, I don't think he's not going like high 2nd round or anything like that. But there are a lot of people who think he might be the 2nd best tight end in this draft behind Brock Bowers, who is going in the top half of the 1st round.
So I'm looking at Pro Football Focus right now, their prospect rankings for tight ends. Brock Bowers, number 1. They have him as top 10 player overall. Yeah, that's fine. I think Brock Bowers is incredible. 2 through 5, you could order these guys in any direction, and I would say, okay, that makes sense. PFF has Jatavian Sanders from Texas, Eric All from Iowa. You never go wrong taking an Iowa tight end.
That's a fact.
Cade Stover at Ohio State, Ben Sinnott at K-State. I would personally put Stover last, but you could order those guys any number 1 through 4, and I think you could have a fair argument.
And I think all of those guys are bigger than Sinnott.
Yes.
Who stands just 6'3". Like, those other guys are like your big targets, your prototypical, like Jatavian Sanders is like 9'3". He feels like there were times when he played at Texas where he looked like the biggest man in the world, rumbling downfield and catching passes. I like Jatavian Sanders a lot. There's a mock draft that we'll talk about tomorrow that suggests the Chiefs might take Jatavian Sanders in the 4th round. I wouldn't be opposed to that at all. But yeah, Sinnott's draft stock is right around 3rd, 4th round, and certainly would be an opportunity for the Chiefs to select him. I think we'll probably learn just how much the Chiefs value having some youth and some depth at that position going forward into an uncertain future where you don't know if Noah Gray is going to be on the team next season, and you don't know how much Travis Kelce has in the tank. It's probably time to start thinking about that position long-term post-Kelce.
By the way, we talked about A.D. Mitchell earlier because Dane Brugler of The Athletic projected him to the Chiefs with the 32nd pick. You mentioned Noah Gray. Do you know what those two have in common?
Diabetes.
Why did no one tell me A.D. Mitchell was a type 1 diabetic? Why did no one tell me this?
Are you a bigger fan now?
Yes! Trade up to get him. Wide receiver 1. No one told me. I had no idea. And then total doofus idiot Bob McGinn in his annual draft piece the other day. He's such a clown. He had his draft piece the other day, said the red flags for Adonai Mitchell included that sometimes he gets moody because he doesn't always check his blood sugar very often. 1, you should do that, and the NFL will make sure that he does. 2, Bob, have you ever been around someone with diabetes? You know how you fix that? A quick insulin shot or OJ. And I don't mean Simpson. You get 8 ounces of Tropicana in you and you're fine. Red flag, give me a break. Bob McGinn's a clown. But anyway, he hasn't been credentialed by an NFL team in 20 years, and people think he's got some sort of intellect or insight into the NFL. Give me a break. Anyway, A.D. Mitchell, wide receiver 1, insulin gang, rise up. With that, you asked a question to Matt Verderame a little bit earlier about more of a general draft question, like team-based draft question. What do you think of his answer about the teams that are a draft away from being improved or contending?
I wasn't surprised at his answers because the way you get better through the draft right away or elevate the talent level of your team right away is typically with a bunch of high draft picks. If you look at teams that got the most out of like their rookie class last year, and not just teams that got the most out of a rookie class but weren't good, like teams that were playoff teams with a lot of help from their rookie class. You had Houston, who had the 2nd and 3rd overall picks in the draft and appear to have landed long-time stalwarts in C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson. They also landed Tank Dell in the 3rd round, triumph for the scouting department. You had the Lions, who had 4 top 45 picks, and 3 of them were really good for them last year. Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Brian Branch. They didn't get a lot from Jack Campbell, which, weird. Maybe you don't take a middle linebacker 16th overall. Who knew that was maybe not the best idea? But still, if you have 4 top 45 picks, you're getting impactful players. You've got a chance to get really impactful players from day one. And then you have Seattle, I don't think had a great all-around draft. I think the jury's out on some of the guys they took day 2 and day 3, but they had 2 top 20 picks, and they end up with Devin Witherspoon, who looks like he's going to be a player at defensive back, and Jackson Smith-Njigba, who had a really nice season as their third wide receiver.
Really came on as the year went on.
Yeah, and is long-term, he's going to be the Tyler Lockett replacement in all likelihood there in Seattle. So, and that was a team that they didn't make the playoffs. They just missed. But if you're going to have an impactful draft class right away, if you're looking for your rookies to come out of the draft a better team for 2024 than you were before the draft, if you don't have a lot of early draft capital, that's not going to happen. So Chicago, they've got the most valuable pick in the draft. They've got number 1. If they take Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams is who I think he is, then
Me too.
I think they're going to be a team in the mix for the postseason. Arizona was one of Matt's answers as well, and that's a team with 2 first-round picks and a chance to maybe add to their total of first-round picks if they move out of number 4 overall. Or even if they don't, they could stay at number 4 and then get a franchise left tackle, or they can get a franchise wide receiver in Marvin Harrison Jr., because I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is that. I think he's going to be the best receiver to hit the league as a rookie since Justin Jefferson. So if he has that kind of impact in an offense that was a lot friskier than they had any right to be last year, frankly, then maybe that is franchise altering for Arizona. The only thing about Arizona is they're Arizona, and they've been what they are for so long. And can you really trust their staff, their front office, to do the right thing? Because that would be pretty uncharacteristic of the entire history of the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, no kidding.
But they're going to have the opportunity to do that because it's all about your draft capital. If you don't have a bunch of really early valuable picks in rounds 1 and 2, you're probably not completely altering the course or accelerating your trajectory upward in a meaningful way.
How good do you think Chicago can be? If Caleb Williams is, I'm not saying he's going to be MVP right away. I think he's got MVP potential. I will tell you that right now, which is crazy to think about a Chicago Bears quarterback.
I do think that's his ceiling. I do think that's his ceiling.
Agree. I agree.
And I think he's likelier to get to that ceiling than any other of the other guys in this draft.
Let's say he hits, like, as a rookie, 70% of his ceiling. Like, he's good. Legitimately good as a rookie. How good can that team be?
If he's as good as C.J. Stroud was as a rookie, they'll make the playoffs.
That's the hard part about the draft, right? Is I think he can be. I think he can be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL when he gets to his peak. But there are also so few quarterbacks who are as good as CJ Stroud was right off the rip. Like, the odds say that's probably not going to happen, but if you've watched this dude play, why wouldn't you believe that that could happen with him? I think Chicago's got a chance to fight for a wild card next year. I don't think they'll be better than either Green Bay or Detroit. Detroit obviously at the top of that division, and I have no reason to think they'll get much worse. I think Green Bay will get better. I don't think the Bears are better than them, but I think they can vie for a playoff spot. The one team that I think probably falls into this discussion, what do you think about the Atlanta Falcons this year? Like, they've got a running back. They've got receiver. Yeah, they've got 2. They've got good pass catchers. They've got I would stop at good offensive line. They're not great, but they're good enough. They've got a quarterback now who has questions coming off the Achilles, but he's an established thing. They added a lot of defensive talent last year. You assume that their new head coach is not so far up his own butt that he's actually going to call plays for his best players. I think if you add 1 or 2 more decent pieces for Atlanta, that might be a team that wins the South. Who else is going to win the South?
Yeah, somebody has to. By rule, somebody has to.
I don't think it'll be New Orleans. I am all the way out on them. I don't think it's going to be Carolina. I like Baker Mayfield a lot. I think Tampa is going to pretty much run it back from last year, but they lost their offensive coordinator who got the best out of Baker Mayfield. And I still don't think Todd Bowles is a good head coach. I think Atlanta, if they add, who's your favorite edge rusher? We asked Matt that question. Who's your favorite edge? Latu or Turner or Verse?
Latu for me.
If Atlanta adds Latu and some more depth defensively, I think that's your 4 seed right there. And they might win that division by multiple games with how bad that division is.
Yeah, again, somebody has to.
Yeah, so I think they're in the mix there too as a team that doesn't need a whole lot, and they can take their team to the next level. Is there anyone, and I asked a similar version of this question the other day, is there anyone who you look at where, like, maybe you say an era is over or that they need to make some wholesale changes if they don't hit on this class? Denver is the obvious one here, and I don't know that they're in a position where they'll be able to do that anyway. I mean, they'd have to trade up from 12 to 3 or 4 to get the quarterback they want in all likelihood. Is there anyone else you see as, like, if they don't hit, they're cooked, it's over? Because, like, at the top, I don't think Washington's in that department because I think Washington's rebuilding.
Yeah.
I don't think New England's in that department because they're rebuilding.
Yeah.
Chicago has essentially built up their whole team for the sake of getting Caleb Williams, so maybe you argue them.
But yeah, like, you can't say it's over for Arizona, because that hasn't.
No, because they already stink.
When did it begin?
Right.
I
Right.
think the Cowboys need to hit on their draft picks because they didn't sign anybody in free agency worth noting.
That's fair.
That's a great point. That's a team that they don't have a lot of draft capital because they don't pick very high, and they do need to find contributors because they haven't found them in free agency.
I mean, I think they've. I don't. What does their defensive line look like? Because I know at least two of them are on the Commanders from last year.
Yeah, their defensive line looks like guys who just got paid by Washington.
Yeah, it looks like Micah Parsons in the Pips.
Yeah. Besides Parsons, who's on that team?
Right now, according to our lads, their starting front is DeMarcus Lawrence, Mazzie Smith, who was a rookie last year, Osa Odigizua, and Micah Parsons. And their backups are us three. Valami Fehoko Jr. is their number 2 right defensive end. You know anything about Valami Fehoko Jr.?
I don't know.
Okay, if you had said yes, I was going to call you a liar. Like, that's what Dallas is running out there. I think that's a great answer. I mean, if they don't get starters, they're toast. Dak's going to be a free agent. CeeDee Lamb's not even negotiating a new deal right now.
You need to hit on the running back spot. I don't think Deuce Vaughn could be your only running back.
They've got, okay, well, they got Rico Dowdle.
Who?
No, anyone former Gamecock? No,
They like Rico Dowdle.
Yeah, I mean
they gave him opportunities over Deuce Vaughn last year.
Yeah.
Another team that I think needs to come out of the draft with some impact guys, Jacksonville.
Yes, good answer.
Yeah,
good answer.
Jacksonville feels a little stuck right
like Family
now.
Feud.
Yeah,
Good answer.
You pine. They picked 17th overall. They don't have a ton of capital. They're 48 in round 2. 96 in round 3. They got 2 4th-round picks and then 1 each in the 5th, 6th, and 7th. But that is a franchise that it felt like last year maybe that was bumping their head on their ceiling a little bit to go 9-8.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to raise that ceiling while they've got, Trevor Lawrence. It might be more on Lawrence than it's on anybody that they could draft this year, determining what their trajectory is and what their ultimate ceiling is in that era of football. But yeah, they got to come out of the draft improved. They got to fill some voids.
2 other real quick ones. Obvious one, Buffalo, because they just got rid of all their dudes. They need to find some starting caliber players. Also, I'll give you Detroit. I will venture Detroit because in 2025, and they'll be a playoff contender regardless this year. 2025, their free agents include their quarterback, their left tackle, and their right tackle. Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell are probably the 2 best players in that team next to Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, excuse me. They could use some depth at the very least and possibly for some future starters.
Jeffrey in the YouTube live chat real quick asked what position do the Raiders need to improve? And all of them is, I think, the answer there. Like, I think they've got a good foundation on their defensive line, and obviously Devontae Adams is a Hall of Fame wide receiver. Is there any other position group for that team you feel real good about?
I think offensive tackle should be the focus. That would be my number 1 thing, is they need to focus on their offensive tackle. I like their defensive line a lot. Yes. Tyree Wilson, Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins. Yeah. That's a really good group.
They're set up front. Robert Spillane's a pretty good linebacker,
Mm-hmm.
I think. But yeah, they just need dudes. Like, they don't have the horses.
I would say any defensive back or offensive line is number 1.
High-end talent.
Yes. Which, frankly, in a draft where offense is really good, not a bad draft to need that. They're picking 13th. You can get a good player at 13.
Yeah.
You can probably get one of those starting offensive tackles at 13.
They feel like a team that might try and trade into the bottom of the 1st round, get a quarterback too, or the top of the 2nd round, try to get like Penix if they really like him.
That's worth it. I would try Michael Penix there, no doubt. We owe you a timeout. We'll come back after this commercial break. We've got today's What Is Wrong With You. Then we'll get to some transfer portal news for KU and K-State coming up on 580 Sports Talk. The beginning of a new week here on What Is Wrong With You on 580 Sports Talk. Our final week of news stories, in fact, for the month of April on What Is Wrong With You. Coming up next Monday, we will have our April semifinals and then the championship rounds on Tuesday of next week. Dan, you are up first for our new entries to What Is Wrong With You today.
We are going to Mount Morris Township, Michigan, where a grandmother was arrested last Thursday after she allegedly helped her granddaughter beat up another student at an elementary school.
Oh, no.
So grandma went with granddaughter to McMonigle Elementary School on Thursday. They were buzzed into the building for, you'll never believe this, a behavioral meeting. Michael Veach, the police chief of Mount Morris Township, I don't know if there's a relation. Veach said the grandmother saw another girl her granddaughter was having trouble with, so they followed her into a bathroom, and the grandmother held down the girl while her granddaughter punched her.
Jeez!
The grandmother is lodged at the Genesee County Jail. No names are being released as she is pending arraignment.
Holy cow!
So
I thought this was just going to be something like she stood by and watched, not she held her down.
No, this was like, yeah, my granddaughter is going to get her lick back, and I'm going to assist.
Wow, that's awful.
Yeah, really bad. You wonder where the behavioral issues might be coming from for granddaughter.
Why does a grade schooler know how to throw a real punch? Also a concern for me.
you'd be surprised what's on network television these days.
I suppose that's true.
They know a lot.
My story today is going to take us to Florida, where a charter bus driver who complained to a hotel staff in DeLand, Florida, that he could not sleep because of noise coming from upstairs, pepper sprayed the entire hallway, leading to the evacuation of more than 100 guests this weekend. We meet 59-year-old Daniel Young of Hollywood, Florida, who was arrested and charged with criminal mischief of more than $1,000 and possession of a weapon by a convicted in-state felon. Volusia County Branch jail records show he was released on his own recognizance after spending 2 days in jail. The incident occurred at 8:56 p.m. Friday at the Holiday Inn in DeLand. Guests experienced breathing problems, and some came out of the building coughing. One was even taken to a hospital. More than 100 guests were evacuated because of the smell that had guests experiencing respiratory problems, according to police. More than 15 emergency vehicles and 3 police vehicles responded to the hotel. The fire department located an orange chemical near the elevators on the second floor, which they identified as pepper spray. A hotel maintenance worker escorted investigators to a second-floor room where they viewed surveillance video. In the video footage, they saw a man, later identified as Young, dressed in a Florida Tours Company shirt, spraying an orange chemical all over the hallway floor. A hotel employee recognized Young and identified him as the charter bus driver who transported a baseball team to DeLand.
Do you know which Division I university is located in DeLand, Florida?
Is that Stetson?
That is Stetson, the Hatters.
There we go.
Well done.
Police located Young in a large white charter bus in the parking lot of the hotel. Young said he complained to the staff about the noise, but it did not stop. So he pepper sprayed the floor in hopes it would irritate the guest room and stop the noise. Young then threw the pepper spray canister behind the hotel, which police found sticking out of the sandy ground.
Do you know why they call it DeLand?
Because
it's next to DC. Thank you, Texter from the 785 for that.
Wow, that's shaking my head at that. Come on. Jake texting in? That's a classic LeBron joke right
like
there.
A Jake joke, doesn't it?
You can't do this, man. I'm sorry it's loud. That's a hotel for you. It happens. That doesn't mean you can attack people. Use biological weapons out here. Obviously, hyperbole. Also, the lack of care to dispose of them. Do you not think hotels have cameras, or that you could simply walk around the perimeter of the building and find it? Not even into a dumpster, just dumped behind the building?
You know where I bet it would be really quiet and you could get away from the noise? On the big bus that you drive.
Yeah, that's like, not good.
Go calm down in the bus for a little bit. Maybe even fall asleep. Guys riding those buses do it all the time.
You got plenty of your own space.
If you've ever been on a sports team of any kind, you know how to fall asleep on a charter bus.
Ain't that the truth? All right, who's your winner today?
I got to go with this guy.
Yeah.
One, because it'd be a lot more fun to make jokes about as the week goes on than like a grandmother and granddaughter with obvious anger issues.
Yes.
But also because he just said, yeah, I thought my pepper spray would only affect one person, not understanding that that's not how pepper spray works. That's intended to bother a whole lot of people.
No.
Like 100, for example. You made a A and B problem into C through Z problem.
C through triple Z. Evacuate 100 people. Yeah, you screwed up so many different people there. That's my vote, too. That is our first winner of the week, the charter bus driver here in What Is Wrong With You. Coming up next, we've got the latest from the transfer portal for both KU and K-State, basketball and football. That's up next here on 580 Sports Talk. 443, about to be 444 here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, Spencer here with you. I want to share this story with you real quick. I just saw this on Reddit a little while ago, but it's got to do with college sports, so I want to bring it up. So a user, a KU fan, says that his sister and his sister's husband both went to college in North Carolina. Her husband is from North Carolina, and they got married. And at their wedding, the father, who's a lifelong KU fan, wrote up a secret contract that he made the bride and groom sign that said, if you have children, they are not allowed to play basketball in the state of North Carolina and must commit to the University of Kansas. Lifelong KU fan. Haha, very funny. And then so the couple signed it. They said, okay, haha, fine. They signed it. The dad then sent it to Shea and Zenger. This was in 2014. Sent it to Shea and Zenger at KU with a note that said, keep this on file for X family for 18 years from now or whatever. So someone in the KU athletic office shared it with Bill Self. And Bill Self then wrote a letter back to this guy that said, dear Josh and Maggie, congrats on your marriage. I hope you enjoy the adventures you experience together. Maggie, I think your dad is pretty clever to have you and your future husband sign contracts to prevent all the family feuds that could happen in 20 years. Seems like a pretty smart guy. You might need to take his advice. Enjoy your special day. Rock Chalk Jayhawk, sincerely, Bill Self. Very funny. And this guy who's writing about this on Reddit said he wanted to share it on social media, but the dad said, no, I don't want people to think Bill Self was being serious. Like, this is a very nice thing for our family. You can only share it when Bill retires or I die. On March 6th, this father passed away.
Oh, no.
The last thing he saw before he died, KU beat K-State in the Sunflower Showdown. Again, lifelong KU fan. So now, a month after he had passed away, this guy shared this letter from Bill Self to his family with the public. And was like, Bill Self, pretty cool dude to respond to this. So I thought that was a really cool story.
Yeah.
Bill Self, by all accounts,
not the dad dying.
No, I mean, that's obviously very tragic, but pretty cool for a guy who, in May of 2014, had plenty of other things going on he had to worry about. Like, is Andrew Wiggins and Joel Embiid going to leave my program?
Yes.
To take time to write this back, I thought was pretty cool. As for what's going on currently with both KU and K-State, let's get to the latest from the portal. Let's start with basketball here. KU, not a whole lot going on. 2 big visits this weekend. Rylan Griffin from Alabama. We've talked about him a bunch. Sounds like KU is the front runner at the very least. If not, it's going to happen. They also got a visit from the number 1 point guard in next year's class, Darius Acuff, high school recruit, which is a big, big deal. Going to need a new point guard next year because Dwan Harris is graduating, finally.
He is going to run out of eligibility eventually.
Darius Acuff looks to be pretty special. Next year's class is when we start to get good high school players again at the Power 5 level. Mm-hmm. And he seems like a good one. So that's a big visit for KU.
And if there's one position that Bill Self, I don't think has ever misidentified, it's point guard.
It is unbelievable how many good point guards KU has had. Like, I talk about the golden era a lot in the good old days. Dwan Harris, different kind of point guard, but an incredible, court vision, court general point guard. Devon Dotson, Remy Martin as a transfer, Devontae Graham, Frank Mason, Sharon Collins, Aaron Miles. Like, it's unbelievable.
We jumped over like an entire graduating class.
Well, yeah, I'm just like the best of the best.
No, I know. There was a fallow period there.
Yes.
Shout out to Nadir Tharp.
Yeah. Hey, Nadir Tharp getting kicked off the team led to more Frank Mason right away. So I'll take it. I'll be fine with that. So that's the latest for KU. Not a whole lot of movement right now. They're also in the final 5 for Kobe Brea from Dayton. 3-point specialist. Shot 40% for Dayton last year.
That'd be a good pickup for a team that
desperately needs 3-point
can't
shooting.
shoot the ball from 3.
Here's his final 5. Kansas, Duke, Kentucky, UConn, North Carolina. Literally the 5 biggest brands in the sport.
Yeah, that sounds fake, right?
Yeah.
No,
me
a
too,
guy
dude.
from Dayton.
Yeah. Like, Dayton's a good program, but man, usually you think about like one of those programs, not all 5.
Yeah, this is like if Victor Wembanyama had been a high school, like a legitimate college recruit. That would be like what you would think his final 5 would look like.
For
or
real.
What LeBron's final 5
right.
would look like,
Oh my gosh.
So that just goes to show you how special that those programs think his ability to shoot is.
Yeah.
Because we're not talking about like a no doubt future NBA player. We're not talking about a guy with like a huge ceiling. We are talking about catch the ball, shoot the ball, it goes in, we get 3 points. That is what Kobe Bray's whole thing is. And that's how good he is at it.
3-point shooters are to college basketball now what edge rushers are to the NFL. You can never have enough.
Yep.
You always need more. That's what you need with shooters. K-State, let's get to their women's team real quick. How about this big-time pickup? The American Athletic Conference Player of the Year, Tamira Poindexter from Tulsa, committed to Jeff Mittie and the K-State women this weekend. Last year, she averaged 21 points and over 5 boards a game. She has averaged double figures in points every year for college career. 6'1" forward. Yeah.
Jeff Mittie is putting a solid team, a great team on paper together after what they did last year.
Yeah, he heard everyone talking about how disappointing it was to only get to the second round.
This is the Gabby Gregory replacement for Kansas State. A big forward with some guard skills that can score at all 3 levels. This is going to be a really useful player for Kansas State. She's going to play a lot. She's going to make a big impact.
Even from Oklahoma. Gabby Gregory from Tulsa, I believe, and played at OU before transferring. Poindexter from Sapulpa. The right up here is missing a letter. Sapulpa, Oklahoma. That's what I thought.
Yeah, that's the Tulsa area.
Yeah, so it's worked out well for Jeff Mittie and K-State. As for the K-State men, they had a visit this weekend from Brendan Dworzinski? No, Hausen, another 3-point specialist. Do you know how many 3-pointers he took last year? I don't know if you've seen this stat.
Was a lot?
223.
That is a lot.
That is, wow.
For comparison's sake, Brendan Hausen last year, who, by the way, shot, if I need to pull up the exact number here for the year, shot for his career 39.5% from 3-point range. He took a grand total, 223 for his career. He took last year 16 2-pointers. 163s, 16 twos. This is high major Jack Golke. That's what this guy is. He just does not shoot twos. What was it? Golke took 3 twos all year.
I think it was 4. Yeah,
4?
Something like that.
Yeah, this is who Brendan Hausen is. He is a shooter. I would imagine he's not a starter. He probably comes in that first wave of guys off the bench, first rotation every game. He's a hell of a player.
Yeah.
And maybe not as dire as KU's need for shooters after last year, but K-State could use a shooter, and he's a good one. He's one of the best available. So if you can land him, that's a pretty big deal. I would be all in if K-State could land a guy like that. Also, rumored that K-State has interest in Felix Okpara, who is a transfer from Ohio State. He's a big man, played both for the MoCan AAU program in the Kansas City area. Well, really both states, Missouri and Kansas together, for Rodney Perry on K-State staff. Then transferred as well to Link Academy in Branson, which has become the newest big basketball academy, where he also played for Rodney Perry, who took over as their head coach at one point.
Yeah.
Big time connection there.
Yeah. So obviously K-State really, really needs a big, and we've wondered if they maybe dragged their feet on some guys, lost out on Terrace Reed. Don't know where it's going with Baba Miller. Felix Okpara is a rim protector, 2.3 blocks per game. Wasn't a prolific scorer for Ohio State last year. But again, K-State doesn't need their bigs to be prolific scorers. I don't think the offense is built to have a big man score 18 a game. What they need is athleticism and strength and the ability to alter shots at the rim. And that's what Okpara gives you. So it is just at this point, like the rumor mill churning on Okpara. I don't know. There's not like an official visit or anything scheduled, anything that's publicly known anyway. But this is one of those where you can connect some dots and see that there might be some significant interest from the Wildcats.
On the football front for K-State, this is pretty important. Well, KU, real quick, has lost a few young players. One, Saraz Buncombe, wide receiver, kind of disappointed, thought he'd contribute this next year, especially in 2025. Also, Red Martell, a freshman running back. He was an early enrollee, went through spring. By all accounts, was way behind everyone else. So no hard feelings. Go play somewhere. Wasn't going to play for KU this year. K-State. There are some whispers right now that Jake Clifton might be considering leaving the program. That's not official. That's just being rumored right now. We've spoken to Jake Clifton, good kid, like him as a player. I saw someone call him. I saw someone call him a good utility player. That he doesn't start all the time, but when you need them, you really want to have a good one. And I think Jake Clifton is that for the K-State defense.
What I will say is that the rumors indicate that he may not play football next year. It may not be a full departure from the Kansas State football program, but there may be some things calling him to do something that is not football for this coming season and maybe for another season. That is what is out there. Again, we try not to give away too much of like paywalled stuff that you're only getting if you're like paying for subscription services.
Fitz and Swain do way too much good work behind those paywalls to have it given away.
Yeah, we don't want to give away stuff, but the stuff that is out there, the rumblings that are out there are that Jay Clifton is not likely at this point to play football for Kansas State in 2024, and that Asa Newsome, who came on as a freshman last year and played some and then got hurt late in the year, that he might be at a point in his recovery where you're not sure how much K-State can count on him to play this coming year. So depth at linebacker all of a sudden is a pretty big concern. And that's why Kansas State has been really active offering linebackers in the transfer portal. They had one in for a visit, Alex Marenko from New Mexico, who's said that he is down to either Arizona or Kansas State. The tea leaves seem to suggest it won't be the purple Wildcats that he selects, but K-State's going to put in a lot of work in the transfer portal, and that's not new, but it looks like a lot of their attention is going to be on that linebacker position.
So something to keep an eye on there. Both KU and K-State, if I had to get, and this is a guess, this is just an educated guess from me, no reporting or anything, I think both are going to be very active in the next couple weeks because K-State needs depth and KU needs help on the defensive line, just depth and maybe even starters with some injuries they went through in spring. So I would not be surprised if we have a lot of KU and K-State transfer news on the football front here in the near future. We've got 1 hour left of 580 Sports Talk. After the news, we'll get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines and preview Royals Jays tonight. the final hour of 580 Sports Talk on this Monday, April 22nd. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis, all here with you for this final hour of the show. We appreciate you for spending some of your Monday here with us. Plenty to get to in this final hour today, including a bunch of 580 Sports Talk headlines. We will preview Royals versus Blue Jays coming up tonight. First game of a 4-game set between the Royals and the Blue Jays. We'll also get to your texts on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429, and your comments on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel as well. Are you gentlemen ready? And ladies and gentlemen, and all others who are watching and listening along today, for our final keyword of the day for the Alpha Media Choose Your Trip contest.
Let's go.
All right, thank you. Somebody excited. Thank you. Go over to our website, 580wibw.com. Click on the Choose Your Trip 2024 link. It is right beneath the link to our video stream today. You have to enter this keyword before 6 o'clock. Right at 6 o'clock, done. Dunzo. Goodbye. It's over for today. We'll have more keywords tomorrow. But enter this keyword before 6 o'clock, and you'll have a chance to win the Alpha Media Choose Your Trip contest. Your keyword is events. 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 So enter that at 580wibw.com. That's all you have to do, and you'll be entered to win a trip to wherever you want to go, airfare, as well as luxury hotel accommodations included. The Alpha Media Choose Your Trip 2024 contest. Let's get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today. I am going to begin with a big day of news for one of the Chiefs' chief rivals in the AFC West. The Denver Broncos making a whole bunch of news today. First of all, personnel-wise, the actual football team, they traded a 6th-round pick to the New York Jets for quarterback Zach Wilson and a 7th-round pick in this year's NFL draft. Zach Wilson, of course, who has started the majority of the last 3 years for the New York Jets, and it has not gone very well at all. In 33 career starts, Zach Wilson has a 12-21 record. He has completed merely 57% of his passes for 6,200 yards, almost 6,300, 23 touchdowns to 25 interceptions, a career passer rating of 73.2. He is coming off of what was his best year. Yeah, his best year overall, 60% completion percentage, 2,271 yards, 8 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He started in 11 games and also played the majority of another game. That was week 1 when Aaron Rodgers infamously ruptured his Achilles on the 4th play of the game. Zach Wilson, of course, was the 2nd overall pick back in the 2021 draft out of BYU. He was a whole lot better in college than he has been in the pros so far. He is now the Denver Broncos problem.
He could do the funniest thing ever because he'd have to pay Pat Surtain for Surtain for the number 2. He could just slot it at the number 3, and a lot of Broncos fans would already have his jersey.
That's true. Just take number 3. Be Wilson number 3 again. That's very true. Your Broncos roster, by the way, can you name the 3 Bronco quarterbacks currently on their roster?
Ben DiNucci.
Yes, we can, because we went over this. Yes, Ben DiNucci, Cowboy great, Ben DiNucci.
James Madison great. What are you talking about?
Yeah, James
former
Madison.
James Madison Duke, former Seattle Sea Dragon. Yes, Ben DiNucci, Jarrett Stidham, who's on the 2nd year of a 2-year contract. He's the only returning quarterback for the Broncos, and Zach Wilson. That's the worst quarterback room I've ever heard of in my whole life.
It's very bad. Very, very bad.
That is hideous.
I wonder if someone has put together a ranking of the worst. Here we go. All right, NFL.com is going to hook us up here. This is an old piece, but it is the worst 15 quarterback units of the Super Bowl era. I can tell you their number 1 at the time was the 2000 Cleveland Browns. Tim Couch, Doug Peterson, Spurgeon, Wynn. Is this group worse than that?
Run it by me again.
Tim Couch, Doug Peterson, Spurgeon, Wynn.
Well, nobody in the Bronco quarterback room has a name as cool as Spurgeon Wynn.
Yeah. Doug Peterson was at least a good backup for a long time.
Yeah, he hung in the league forever.
Yeah.
Tim Couch had one good year, which is one more good year than the combination of Jarrett Stidham, Zach Wilson, and Ben DiNucci have ever had.
I would put this Cowboys room as even worse. The 2001 Dallas Cowboys, Quincy Carter, Anthony Wright, Ryan Leaf, Clint Storner.
Quincy Carter took a team to the playoffs.
The
Zach
Redskins,
Wilson never did that. Jarrett Stidham hasn't done that.
True.
No.
Did
Broncos
Quincy
still worse.
Carter take them to the playoffs?
Quincy Carter started a playoff game.
The Redskins had a similar like bad quarterback room. They had Rex Grossman, John Beck.
John Beck.
Rex
And-
Grossman, that is NFC championship winning quarterback Rex Grossman.
Who else? Who was the other guy? Was McNabb still? No, that was just John Beck and
That's pretty gross.
Rex
And
Grossman.
Rex Grossman.
Rex Grossman better than anybody the Broncos.
Yeah, his
currently have.
nickname was Sexy Rexy.
Oh yeah, we
Yeah,
remember.
the Sex Dragon. Yeah.
Yes, the
Yeah.
sex cannon.
The Sex Cannon.
He's a
yes.
sex cannon.
Yes.
Very, very important distinction.
Yes. Yes.
Ben DiNucci is Sea Dragon. Rex Grossman, the sex cannon.
Anyone else who ever read Kissing Susie Colbert back in the day, you know, when you hear the phrase button hook or Kevin Spacey, that they just go together hand in hand. The one on this list that I remember the most clearly was the 2004 Chicago Bears. Rex Grossman, Jonathan Quinn, Ohio State legend Craig Krenzel, as well as Chad Hutchinson. That, I think, almost made my dad give up liking football. I really think he got close to it.
Pretty gross. But again, 2 years after that, Rex Grossman started a Super Bowl.
Yeah, okay.
Do you think-
No, we're not using this revisionist history. Rex Grossman is probably one of the 3 worst quarterbacks to ever play in a Super Bowl, and I'm including backups who took knees. Like, Rex Grossman was carried all the way to a Super Bowl. He was there because you have to have a quarterback.
Do you think there's a team out there that could ever be good enough to carry Zach Wilson to a Super Bowl?
The 2005 Chicago Bears.
No.
Yes.
Absolutely
Yes.
not. No.
Zach Wilson is no worse than Rex Grossman. He's not better.
Grossman could throw the rock, man. He had a big arm.
Who cares if it hits the upper deck?
What Zach Wilson got? What Jarrett Stidham got? No, man, this is the worst. This is the worst quarterback room in history.
It's in the running, but no,
Yeah.
we don't. We can't put it there yet. I have to put an asterisk because they could draft someone.
Yes. The Bo Nix, Jarrett Stidham, Zach Wilson quarterback battle is going to be generational.
If
We
they
had-
don't end up drafting a top end guy, they'll draft a back end guy or even get an undrafted UDFA in there.
Well, yeah. Oh no, I know who I want them to take.
Spencer Rattler?
No, he'd win the job. he would win the job. I am certain of that. No, Milton.
Joe Milton.
Joe
Milton
Milton.
in Denver.
The anti-Sean Payton quarterback.
He would throw the ball 85 yards in the air. It would be incredible.
He-
No one would catch it, but it'd be awesome.
He would hit the assistant offensive line coach in the face with one misplaced swing pass, and Sean Payton would have steam coming out of his ears like a Looney Tune.
I think he has a place in the league as the Hail Mary guy.
I'm
I
with
really
it.
do.
I'm with it.
Teams are trying to do the sneak guy now. By the way, we didn't have time because we had to get to the news break at the top of the 4:00 hour. Matt Verderame tore up Bo Nix earlier.
Yeah, he did.
He shredded that dude, which was very funny. The other Broncos news, by the way, from today, they've updated their uniforms, and they did not make them better. The uniform numbers are ugly. They have weird triangles on them, and they made their blue even darker. They also now have an alternate white helmet on blue pants and jerseys, which looks terrible.
Yeah, they have had fans say, hey, you know what we really liked in the 80s when you had like just a kind of like a normal blue to go with the predominantly orange uniforms? What if we just went back to that? The Broncos like, nah, what if we made the blue darker, son? What if we made it even darker? What if we dressed like the Bears?
They look like UTEP or Texas San Antonio or any of those schools. Honestly, I don't have a problem with the current Horsehead logo. I know some people really don't like it. I have no problem with it. Just go back to the old Blues. Use the newer logo on the old Blues.
Yeah.
And you're fine. You're totally fine. New twist on an old classic. And they're going to use them. That's the crazy thing. They're going to use the throwbacks for multiple games this year.
You get an extra like helmet shell now that you can use. And so a lot of teams are going to do some like throwback helmets and like alternate helmets.
Mm-hmm.
So the Broncos are reintroducing like the 80s, like the John Elway era Bronco uniforms, the ones they wore when they were losing all the Super Bowls. That's the look everyone wants. And the only reason to not just go back to that full time is so that you can sell those and sell your new ones with the goofy ass triangles on them. So many triangles. They're like the mountains. There are fewer of them as you go higher, just like oxygen in the air. Did you know Denver is in the mountains? Did you know it's 5,280 feet above sea level? Because we're going to put it on our uniforms. We're going to put it on the bumper of our helmets.
These stink. We need to end focus groups. I am sorry if your career depends on putting them together. I am sorry. I'm out on focus groups because you end up with this crap. It looks terrible.
They're bad.
Who are these players posing in their promo shots? By the way, who wears 49?
Alex Singleton, I think, linebacker.
That's how far the Broncos have fallen.
Yes, correct.
Alex Singleton is modeling their uniforms.
Yeah,
yuck.
Like.
They couldn't even put Cortland Sutton on here because now there are rumors that someone wants to trade for him.
Like the baseball team that plays in Denver is like an all-time train wreck. They have trailed in all 22 of their games to start this season, a feat not matched since the Washington Senators, to give you an idea of how long ago it's been. And the original Senators, not the second version of the Senators that ended up being the Texas Rangers, the OG Senators that moved to Minnesota. That's how long it's been since the team was this garbage. And they have played in the postseason more recently than the Denver Broncos.
That was like when Spencer brought up the Nationals the other day, or the Caps, or whoever it was, and you could tell that it had been boiling up for a while.
I'm just pointing out
the Nats losing to the A's.
That's right. Do you have more you'd like to say? You're welcome to.
Absolutely not. I'm just making the point that that's where like the Denver Broncos are right now. They are wearing goofy uniforms, and their quarterback room is Zach Wilson, Jarrett Stidham, and Ben DiNucci. That is beneath hell.
We have a comment here on YouTube from Jason who says, I sure wish my Dolphins would go back to retro. They look so much better. They always win what they play with them the 2 times a year. Just saying, LOL.
Yeah, the retro sleeve stripes on the old Dolphins uniforms are so good.
And the old teal.
Yes.
Yeah, no, the Dolphins throwbacks are the best uniforms in the NFL, in my opinion.
NFL uniforms peaked in 1993. Everybody should just go back to what they were wearing in 1993 when I was 7.
I was not thought of.
I'll do some research and see if I agree with that. I mean, my favorite team has never changed their uniform.
Yeah.
They've worn the same thing since Paul Hornung was playing.
You guys will probably all think that the best uniforms anybody wore was when you were 7 years old too. That's typically how those things tend to go.
No, man, when I was a kid, the Bears wore pure orange uniforms a couple times. Those were real bad.
Yeah. I remember those. That's the Rex Grossman era.
Yes.
For the then Redskins, they was like 2010, 11, 12. So when Bruce Allen was like first their GM before he got reassigned, and then whatever happened there, he wanted like the gold on gold.
Ew.
They had these ugly like yellow gold mustard. It was a weird color.
Nasty.
Where they had to they wore them every week.
Yeah.
Either pants or tops.
What do you got for your first headline?
Let's keep the headlines moving. First headline for me, it looks like Mizzou has their new athletic director, and it's a familiar name to K-State fans. Former K-State football player and deputy athletic director Laird Veach is the target for Mizzou to hire as their next athletic director. Veach has been the AD at Memphis since October of 2019. He started his career in athletic administration at Missouri in the late 1990s. That was after wrapping up a career where he played 4 years at K-State, was a team captain his senior year, and a 2-year starter for Bill Snyder. Laird Veach is going to lead the Missouri athletic department.
He just helped get $25 million from FedEx for NIL.
He's always been a great fundraiser, particularly in the department of football. So that's why his particular expertise was really sought after by Mizzou. I forget where their AD went to Arizona, I believe.
Yes, she was forced out.
Yes.
Which, good luck to Laird Veach, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose so. Spencer, your first headline.
Matt Ryan has officially retired. He signed a 1-day contract with the Falcons. I, for one, did not know he was unofficially retired.
Yeah, you would have thought no one calling him and him doing a full slate of games for CBS would have just kind of been retirement by osmosis. I was thinking of this earlier today. You have to add one of these guys to the Hall of Fame. One of them. Otherwise, the big scary guy who inducts everyone, the 6'7" guy, what's his name? David something?
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
You're talking about the guy that runs the
Hall of Fame
Baker?
guy.
David Baker?
David
I think.
Baker.
Yeah, David Baker. Yeah. He is coming to your house and is going to hold a knife to your throat. You have to pick. Yeah, he's a scary man. You have to put one of these guys in the Hall of Fame. Matt Ryan, Matt Stafford.
Stafford won a ring. I guess him. Although Ryan was an MVP.
Ryan was an MVP.
I'd still say Stafford.
That's a great debate.
Yeah.
I think I'd still go. Like if I needed one of those guys at any point in their career to go win me a game, I would take Stafford. There was a smaller window of greatness for Ryan, I guess is what I would say. Not looking at any of the stat comparisons. Like if I dug into the numbers and they like dramatically favored Ryan, I could be swayed on this, but the gut is telling me Stafford.
Who would you pick?
Stafford. Super Bowl. I think Super Bowls trump everything.
Matt Ryan has an MVP, a first-team All-Pro, 2 more Pro Bowls, was the Rookie of the Year, 6,000 more passing yards, also has 34 more touchdown passes, and 3 more interceptions in 26 more games played. I will be honest with you. I think it's Matt Ryan, and I don't think this is a difficult decision. But Twitter disagrees with me. The internet would make you want to think that Matthew Stafford was like next to Marino and Elway among all-time greats, which I think is ludicrous for a guy who, frankly, until he left Detroit, was a career loser. Like his Detroit career is so overrated. No quarterback has ever been a bigger accumulator than Matthew Stafford. 1 Pro Bowl, a comeback player of the year, and a career record of 74 and 90. That was him in Detroit. I don't think it's close for Stafford, to be honest with you. But the internet disagrees with me, so maybe I'm just an idiot. Next headline for me, I guess it's my turn. Maybe I should pay better attention to the rotation here. Some news from the transfer portal in college basketball outside of our 2 local teams. One of the biggest names in the portal, Jeremy Roach, the former point guard at Duke. He has transferred to Baylor. He made that official yesterday. Other programs who are linked to him include Arkansas, St. John's, Kentucky, Villanova, and Syracuse. 6'2", 108 career starts in 4 seasons with Duke. He was 3rd team All-ACC this past season. 1 year of eligibility remaining. He is in the last wave of COVID eligibility years for transfer players this year. Sounds like this was a mutual decision, that Roach really thinks he's got something left to offer the college game, and Duke pretty much told him, hey, look, here's the situation. We've got 6 freshmen coming in next year. It's the best class in the country, and if you're around, you're not really going to play a whole lot. So you can stay, but you're not playing a lot.
He'll help Baylor, though. He'll help Baylor.
Baylor is going to be pretty good next year.
They're going to have a really good roster. Really deep.
Yeah, that team is going to be very impressive. VJ Edgecombe, who is a top 10 prospect in the class, top 20 prospect in the class.
He's a big deal.
Yeah.
Big deal freshman.
He looks like he's going to be pretty good. Robert Wright is a really good prospect for them next year as well. If they're able to bring back both Jada Nunn and Langston Love, I don't see why they wouldn't. That is top 3 team in the conference. Houston, KU, Baylor.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
I would say so too. I think that is the clear number 1 tier to me.
Another quick transfer portal note, by the way. Former Texas guard Tyrese Hunter committed to Memphis just a few moments ago. Made that official on his Instagram.
Hey, look, man.
Is he getting some of that FedEx money?
I'm sure he is. Hey, you want an NIL package? You want to go play for Penny Hardaway so you can say you played for Penny Hardaway? You do your thing. You go, more power to you. If you want to play for a coach who is going to help you be a better player, I would go elsewhere, but more power to you.
All right, for our final headline, it is time. We are in full swing now in this postseason.
Spencer, are you ready with today's new edition?
It's all queued up.
All right.
Folks, it is time for everyone's favorite segment within a segment. It is time for the playoff roundup.
It's time for the 580 Sports Talk Playoff Roundup.
That second whip I was not prepared for. I have to be honest with you.
Love it.
Your name here playoff roundup. Now they got it branded. Maybe we get it sponsored.
Yeah. Hit us up.
Hit our
Hey,
line.
that's not a bad idea.
Hit our line. Anyway,
Did you keep the session files?
Yes.
All right.
Perfect.
Good. Hit us up. You know the
Perfect.
number.
Anyway, the theme from the opening weekend of the postseason in the NBA and the NHL, home sweet home. There were 14 playoff games on Saturday and Sunday combined in hockey and basketball, and the home team won every single one of them, which means all the higher seeds have 1-0 leads. In the NBA, 6 of those home teams won their games by double digits in the first game of the postseason. Tonight, Cleveland against Orlando, New York against Philadelphia, and Denver against Los Angeles Lakers go for 2-0 series leads. Philadelphia likely without Tyrese Maxey, their second leading scorer, as he is ill and did not participate in pregame warmups. So that could be a big problem for the Sixers as they try to even that series at Madison Square Garden. In the NHL, home teams went 6-0. Carolina and Boston winning on Saturday. Florida, New York, the Rangers, Winnipeg, and Vancouver victorious yesterday. 2 series have yet to start. That's the Las Vegas-Dallas series in Dallas and the Los Angeles-Edmonton series in Edmonton. Those are late games tonight, early games tonight. Game 2 in the Eastern Conference between Toronto and Boston and the Islanders and Hurricanes. We will do a quick vibe check here as both Spencer and I have teams participating. Well, for me, it's teams plural. For Spencer, it is teams singular, participating in these postseasons. So, my personal vibe check. First, in hockey, Avs lose to the Jets 7-6. I told you they didn't have good goaltending, didn't I?
You did.
I know puck. What can I tell you? Deport Alexander Georgiev back to Hungary or Bulgaria. I'm sorry. He's from Bulgaria.
That would cause an international conflict
I am
here.
going to cause a problem. He is Bulgarian and he is bad. And the Avs cannot play him again in the series. I don't care who they play in game 2. It doesn't matter to me just as long as it's not him. They could have put like a refrigerator in goal and probably won game 1. Instead, it was Georgiev, and he's a sieve. So they lost 7-6. You put 6 goals past the best goaltender in the league, the Vezina Trophy winner, in all likelihood, Connor Hellebuck, and you can't win that game on the road. That's terrible. Anyway, in basketball, I am in bliss. The Nuggets beat the Lakers by double digits, and I didn't even think, other than Jokic, anybody really played that well on Saturday night, and it just doesn't matter because the Lakers aren't good enough to beat the Nuggets 4 times in 7 games. So very sanguine about that series and expect Denver to win tonight. Spencer, vibe check. Caps are down 1-0 in their series to the Rangers.
Very, very bad vibe check over here. So bad vibes that I had to keep myself off of Twitter.
Any chance they could turn that? Did you see anything in game 1 you like?
I think so. I guess Ovechkin's got to shoot the darn puck. He didn't have a register a shot on goal.
That's tough. Yeah.
If your best player isn't going to shoot the puck, then you're not going to win. The refereeing was a little
iffy.
Little iffy. I think if it weren't for some penalties, it could be 2-1. Would have been 2-1.
Okay.
They would have lost 2-1, obviously.
Game 2 of that series between the Capitals and the Rangers is tomorrow night. Same with game 2 of the Avalanche Jets series.
I didn't watch a ton of the NBA playoffs this weekend. I watched a little bit. I saw the fourth quarter of that Thunder Timberwolves game. That was a lot of fun. Not a very competitive weekend.
Thunder Pelicans, you mean? Or
yeah, Thunder Pelicans. I'm sorry. No, who did the T-Wolves play?
T-Wolves played the Suns, blew them out.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Anthony Edwards deep in his bag.
Yeah, he's awesome. I love watching Anthony Edwards. But yeah, so that OKC game was fairly fun at the end. It was a competitive one.
It was not a good game. It was actually really gross. Like I watched a good chunk of that game, and yeah, man.
OKC forgot how to dribble late.
The Thunder looked like a team that, as a core, is playing in its first like playoff meaningful basketball game, and then they barked like dogs, like as a group.
Yeah, that was really cringy.
Yeah, that was super cringe. I've decided I don't like them. I don't like, and you know what? I'm sure they're pleasant human beings, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Chet Holmgren singing Christina Aguilera for AT&T has completely ruined them for me, at least for this season. I don't like them anymore, and I don't want to see them on TV anymore.
Yeah, I don't like Chet Holmgren for that reason specifically. I really don't.
I actually kind of think that's going to be a tough series for Oklahoma City.
A lot of people think that. Yeah.
Pelicans, even without Zion, match up with them pretty good.
I wish Zion was playing, though. I really do. That'll do it for today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. We've got to get to a break. More 580 Sports Talks coming up after this. I was thinking about this while talking about the Broncos a few minutes ago. Are they having the worst offseason of anyone in the NFL?
Quite possibly.
That's
Like, it's a good thing that they got rid of Russell Wilson because that experiment didn't work. They also have no cap to work with right now, and that is not cap.
They did sign Levi Wallace today.
I mean, shoot, the 2018 Bills are probably furious.
And the other team vying for that would be the Bills.
See, I don't think I would put the Bills next. The other team I was thinking of was Dallas.
Yeah, that was my thought too.
I guess.
Because I get where you're coming from.
The Bills are in a salary cap nightmare, though, essentially, with having to lose. They had to drop all their guys in one day to get under to acceptable rate.
But they do have Josh Allen.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was legit.
But the Cowboys do have Dak Prescott. He's a great quarterback.
I will jump through this window and fight you right now. Anyone who is still on the I believe in Dak train, I cannot take seriously as an analyst of football.
I still think once a day about the guy who did the video after they lost in the playoffs to the Packers and called him the interception man.
So simple and so biting.
Called Dak Prescott. He did a whole song parody of, I believe it's Billy Joel's For the Longest Time, and rewrote the lyrics about how the Cowboys haven't won a Super Bowl in forever, and called Dak Prescott the interception man. And I think about that daily. He is the interception man to me now, probably forever.
It's so funny. We gotta go pull that video up again. It was really funny. I think those are the two teams that have had the worst offseason. I mean, Denver, they're not better. That's the thing. You want this to be a stage for your team, the offseason, where either A, you are getting better or heading into the draft are prepared to get better, or you are tearing down, right? Like you are going all the way toward rebuilding. Denver probably needs to do that. Like Denver should have and I know fans don't like this, and Royals fans, you know the feeling.
Mm-hmm.
You should have traded Cortland Sutton. You should have moved. You probably should have traded Baron Browning, get what you can get for him, and just move off of everyone and just start ground up. And then you at least are, because in the NFL, you can turn around really quickly.
Yes.
Because of the draft, because of the way the schedule is set up, all of those things.
You play the draft right, and you play your salary cap cards right, and you find the quarterback, and you can go from 0 to 60 in a hurry. That's been the problem. We're going on almost a decade now in Denver, and they've made every possible wrong decision about the quarterback spot. That's the most important spot on a roster, and they haven't gotten it right since Peyton Manning retired.
Honestly, imagine if they had even had 2 years of Jacoby Brissett. Like, they wouldn't have contended for anything, but at least you're competitive. They had a good enough defense for a few of those years. They could have at least hung around.
They learned the wrong lesson from their Super Bowl victory. They won Super Bowl 50, and Manning was so bad that year, they benched him for Osweiler.
Against the Chiefs.
Yeah. And I remember that game vividly. I was drinking lots of beers at the Oscar Blues brewery and restaurant up near Boulder. I remember that game very vividly. Drank a lobster-infused stout that day. It was actually better than it sounds. Anyway, apropos of nothing. They benched Manning that year. They went back to the Oak for him, I think week 17. And he quarterbacked him all the way through that playoff run, and they won the whole thing. And I think the lesson the Broncos took from that, at least immediately, was, well, if we got a good enough defense, it could be whoever at quarterback, and it doesn't really matter. He just be a guy. We can just get ordinary quarterback play, but as long as we got the no-fly zone and prime Von Miller and great DeMarcus Ware, future Hall of Famer, then we're going to be fine. We can win games. We can contend for championships. And they haven't been back to the playoffs since, because that, in fact, was wrong. That caliber of defense, you still needed a quarterback who wasn't going to turn the ball over, which they benched Manning because he was doing that too much. But then in the playoffs, he stopped doing it largely, and that allowed the Broncos to win those games. And ever since then, they have made every single wrong decision as an organization. Like they haven't had a thing go right. They haven't done one thing where you go, yep, that was smart. Not one thing. Not a coaching hire, not a quarterback decision. They've gotten it all wrong at every turn. That's how you miss the playoffs 8 consecutive years. This is a Tiffany franchise in the AFC. One of the proudest franchises, a tradition of winning. People want to blame it on the change of hands and ownership and the difficulty after Pat Bowlen died and the internecine squabbles in the front office. You just haven't picked a good coach and haven't picked a good quarterback, and everything has fallen short of those standards since then. And this is an offseason where they're just spinning their wheels because you don't hire Sean Payton and give away draft capital for Sean Payton without the expectation that you're going to get good right away. It's just like the Chargers. You hire Jim Harbaugh to immediately rebuild. You hire Jim Harbaugh to win. And so you hire Sean Payton to win, but this is not a winning roster.
Well, and the thing with the Chargers.
That was where my point was going to go. I feel like I thought that it was questionable when they did hire him because he won in New Orleans, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the roster and the cap space was always teetering. They always teetered with it. It was an every year thing where they had to make cuts to certain guys during the Drew Brees era, and they would do without a top wide receiver maybe 1 year. And when you had a roster like they did in New Orleans, that could work. But when you had the roster in Denver, that was never going to work. I personally thought when he was hired that it was never going to work.
Well, it was never going to work with him and Russell Wilson. Like that was a doomed marriage. I don't know why they ever thought that was going to work. And while Wilson did play better than he did under Nathaniel Hackett, who I firmly believe is the worst NFL head coach in the history of the league, it's him or Urban Meyer. And it might be a photo finish, but
at least people like Nathaniel Hackett as a guy.
At least Urban Meyer knew what the play clock was. They didn't have to hire him an office assistant 2 weeks into his tenure and say, hey, here's a guy that will help you keep track of things like timeouts and the game clock.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, that's true.
So yeah, like there are arguments for both guys, but like it got a little better with Wilson, but it was never going to be worth what they were going to pay him, which again, they decided to do without ever seeing him take a snap in their uniform. Every single decision they've made has been wrong. And now they've got uniforms the fans don't even like. And they've got
starting to turn into like Dan Snyder territory of badness.
That's as insulting as you can get, I think, for a football team.
And look, I am a bona fide, certified Bronco hater. Like, I do not like them. I have never liked them. I have always clowned on my friends who do like them. And again, growing up where I grew up in Denver, I got a lot of friends who are big Broncos fans. And I have enjoyed clowning on them and trolling them and having a good time with this for years. And it's to the point, you ever see, what's the movie? Oh, Observe and Report, where Seth Rogen plays a mall cop. I think it's Seth Rogen. Yeah. Seth Rogen plays a mall cop. Ray Liotta plays a real cop. Anna Faris is in it. It's pretty dark comedy. I find it to be a very funny movie. I've watched it multiple times. Anyway, there's a scene where Seth Rogen's character is applied for the police academy, and Ray Liotta's character's got to tell him, hey, man, you didn't get in because you have serious mental health issues that you have not addressed in any way, and so we cannot let you be on the police force. And his police buddies are hiding in an adjacent closet to hear him tell the guy that he's not going to be a police officer. And over the course of the conversation, one of those police officers comes out of the closet and says, man, I thought this was going to be funny, but actually this is just kind of sad. So I'll see you later. That's where I'm at with the Denver Broncos. I thought their downfall was going to be funny. It's actually kind of sad.
See, I don't have any sort of emotional connection to people who care about the Broncos. I just think it's embarrassing. Like every other team in the league has figured out a way to come out of their slumps. There's no excuse for you not to be able to. The Jaguars found a way to win a division. The Lions were close to a championship game. The Lions had a real chance at playing in a Super Bowl.
Is it the longest? It's the longest playoff drought in the league, right? Or no, it's the Jets.
Jets.
It's the Jets,
yeah, the Jets.
And then the Broncos. That's the conversation the Broncos find themselves in right now. And it's unfathomable that franchise is in that conversation. But that is a product, again, of making every wrong move. And I don't know that there's a right move for them to make this offseason. They don't have enough high-end talent to be good. They don't have the quarterback to mix with Mahomes in the division.
Mm-hmm. The one thing, two quick things before we get to a commercial break. One, you mentioned the Chargers comparison. And, you don't tear down when you hire a Jim Harbaugh or a Sean Payton or someone who has that kind of track record. I think the Chargers still did it right. I mean, it helps that they have the quarterback. Justin Herbert's not going anywhere. They've got the quarterback. You'll always be competitive when you have the quarterback. But they tore the Band-Aid off right away. We've got these contracts we got to figure out. We've got to make room under the cap. We're going to trade Keenan Allen. We're going to get rid of Mike Williams. We're going to open this up. So, yeah, this first year, the roster, not very good. No one is looking at the Chargers this year and saying, hey, that is a Super Bowl contending roster like they normally do, and getting attracted by the shiny things instead of the depth and the important things. No one believes that with the Chargers this year. But by doing that right away, you're getting a bunch of young guys from the draft who are going to be in the system right away. Herbert's going to have a year to get used to Harbaugh and Greg Roman and the expectations. And it's all up. Like, everything from this point forward for the Chargers, if it goes according to plan, is up. And that is the positive thing I can say about them. The Broncos, they could be 7-10 or 8-9 again next year. They could win 4 games. They could be 9-8. And you say, oh, wow. Okay. We missed on the 7 seed, and we also don't get a great draft pick, and we also have all this money tied up in players who aren't very good. And yay? Like that's where the Broncos are. And that's, I think, the big difference there. Also, just to finish off the point about other teams who have bad off seasons, all those points about the Broncos, those are all very long-term points, right? Like dating back to Super Bowl 50. All of those kind of condensed into 1 year is what happened to the Cowboys this year. They have not made a single good decision. They didn't re-sign any good players. They lost the middle linebacker to injury, which was not their fault, in Van Der Esch, who had to retire. Jerry Jones is still meddling too much. They have not worked out any sort of future plan for Dak Prescott. Their best offensive player, CeeDee Lamb, they have not had serious renegotiations with for a new contract as of yet. They have done nothing right. They have not made a single good decision yet. Not one. And now they have to draft, and I hope you land 4 starters because you got no one else who's going to play on defense. Those are by far, I think, the 2 worst off seasons between anyone else in the NFL. We got to get to some baseball. Royals versus Blue Jays coming up tonight. We'll talk about it next on 580 Sports Talk. Finishing things up here on 580 Sports Talk today, I'm Brendan, that's Dan, that's Spencer. Coming up tomorrow, Michael Swain is going to join us, talk all things KU and Jayhawk Weekly. We'll also get to some more mock drafts. We'll get to some of our favorite players in the draft this year. We'll get to all of that coming up tomorrow here on 580 Sports Talk, plus a recap of Game 1 between the Royals and the Blue Jays, which is coming up tonight. 6:40 first pitch, 6 o'clock pregame start time from Kauffman Stadium. You can hear the game and all of the action right here on 580 WIBW. One roster move for the Royals today. Tyler Duffy has been promoted from AAA Omaha. Anthony Veneziano has been sent back to AAA. Your Royals starting lineup for tonight: Garcia, Witt, Pasquantino, the top three. Salvi is catching tonight. He is behind the plate. Velasquez hitting fifth, your DH. Hunter Renfroe to the 6 hole. He's your right fielder. Hampson in center. Massey at second. Dairon Blanco starts in left. He's your 9 hole hitter today. All in support of Brady Singer today for the Kansas City Royals.
4 pretty good starts in a row for Singer, but the last 2, he's only lasted 5 innings. So the Royals might like him to be a little bit more pitch efficient and get them deeper into a ball game. They're facing Yusei Kikuchi tonight, hard-throwing left-hander.
I love Yusei Kikuchi.
Kikuchi had the Royals number last year. 10 innings, only 2 runs allowed, and 10 strikeouts to just 2 walks. So threw it pretty well against the Royals last year. 1 start in April, another in September. And prior to that, Royals had tuned him up pretty good, but Kikuchi had a good year last year, and he's off to a good start this year. Consecutive quality starts for Kikuchi his last 2 times. That's why Hampson and Blanco are in the lineup. Get a little bit more right-handed against him. A note on that transaction earlier, Tyler Duffy added to the 40-man roster to be called up. Jordan Lyles is on the restricted list, which allows the Royals to maintain him, but he does not count against the 40-man roster. It sounds like there's a personal issue that Jordan Lyles is dealing with, and by accounts, it does not seem like that's going to be he just ducks out for a few days and then comes back. So not entirely sure what is going on there. And of course, Lyles is afforded a right to privacy, certainly, and nobody really knows anything about it right now, but certainly wish him the best. Goes beyond baseball, obviously, and hope everything is okay with him and his family.
Yeah, no, that's unfortunate. And I hope he's all right. Hope everything is okay for the Lyles family. I did want to add really quickly, Rick Derringer, also big fan of tonight's Blue Jays starting pitcher. Rock and roll Kikuchi Koo.
Oh, I was going to say, you say Kikuchi and I say hello.
Nice. Do you know the song Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo?
I did not.
I mean, that's dated even for me. That song came out in 1970 or 1973. But
There are very few songs that I know from that time period.
do you know the most famous song by Rick Derringer? I'm sure you do.
I'm coming up empty here. I'm sure like you're going to tell me I'm going to slap my forehead.
Real American.
Oh, yes.
He did
course.
Hulk Hogan's theme song.
Hulk Hogan's theme. That's him. Yes.
It is a great theme song, by the way.
Hang on, Sloopy, also an acceptable.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good one, too. Again, you'll be able to hear all of that Royals baseball action all series long right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. We have to get to one final commercial break. We'll come on back and we'll finish off this edition of 580 Sports Talk next with the final word. Time to wrap up 580 Sports Talk today. Again, we're back tomorrow with another full show from 2 until 6. Michael Swain will join us. We'll have plenty of NFL draft to get to, Royals recap, and a whole lot more. That is tomorrow back here for 580 Sports Talk. Dan, why don't you get us started today with our final words?
To reiterate the point I made at the top of the program, we know the Royals are more competitive than they were last year and have been, in fact, for quite some time. They've established that they can be a competitive baseball team. But there's a difference between competitive and contending. And the difference is found in every 3-game series. Can you win the swing game? Can you win the rubber game? Can you find a way to get a series win? The Royals to date haven't quite found their way to get that extra win in a 3-game series. It's part of the learning process of a young team. We'll see how they do in a 4-game series against the playoff team from Toronto this week.
Spencer?
My final word is I got a pretty interesting email today that I forgot that I entered my name into a lottery for, the Savannah Bananas.
Oh?
So I might have an interesting decision to make because they play at Nats Park on July 13th. I have a concert in DC that I'm still up in the air July 27th. I can't go back to DC twice in 1 month. That airfare is too much. So there's a potential where it's Savannah Bananas versus Luke Combs.
You might get more money back for selling the Bananas tickets.
That's
yeah,
real.
I'd have to buy them though. That's the thing.
Oh, it's a lottery.
It's
to
a
buy
lottery
them.
to buy them.
Yeah.
That is a tough decision.
But we'll see how that goes.
Final word for me today is that the Kansas City Royals are not going to have too many weekends like this past weekend, I think, over the course of the year. Cole Reagans is not going to have many starts like that, and Bobby Witt is not going to have that many slumps like that. They're going to be relatively fine, not maybe contenders all year, but they're going to be fine. They're going to bounce back from that. I understand some frustration with it, but don't get too hard on yourself for this team. It's still only April. We've got Royals baseball coming up next against the Toronto Blue Jays. We'll join you again tomorrow coming up at 2 o'clock. Until then, for Dan Lucero, for Spencer Dupuy, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. This has been 580 Sports Talk.